across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum with me, Samara Gill, in for the great Kevin O'Sullivan while he hosts breakfast. Well, oh my gosh, I think the lunatics are running the country at the moment, and if anything proves this, it proves what happened yesterday. Now, we've got one man dead, a 14-year-old stabbed, a community living in fear after a triple stabbing in Uxbridge, and the suspect. Well, now I can reveal to you a couple more details about this man who, again, is the suspect. He's a 22-year-old Afghan national who arrived in the UK via a lorry in 2020, and he was granted asylum in this country 2 years later. Wow. If anything proves that we've imported this violence into our country, this is what this suspect proves. This is shocking. I was just in this community a couple weeks ago talking to women and children who said they were fearing for their safety. Now, we have a lot of facts here. We know that the incident happened on a road where there was a HMO, house of multiple occupancy. We know that the people involved were people living on the street. We've heard that there might have been a dog walker involved. We know that obviously there's a 14-year-old child clearly on his break, on his midterm, who has also been stabbed. And we know that there's one man who is dead. Now, I want to quickly go over to the scene, but I am joined, actually, for 2 whole hours, lucky me, with Robert Bates, who is the director for the Centre of Migration Control, probably the most perfect person I could think of to join me tonight. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Samara. A lot going on to talk about, a lot to go into. What's
your reaction to this? Because I feel like your life's work is trying to prevent this from happening, and today we see yet another tragedy.
Well, I think we're now being greeted with a constant drip, drip, drip of this kind of story. Unfortunately, this one really has resulted in fatalities, and this is really at the sharp end of the impending risk that we are sitting on if we continue to allow tens of thousands of people to break into our country each and every year, many of them from cultures that are completely alien to Britain. This is unfortunately the end result, and I really think this is now a community that will be reeling for a very long time. We'll get some warm words off politicians, but they won't do anything to tackle...
Thoughts and prayers, you know.
Exactly, yeah, don't look back in anger and all that kind of spiel. This is now a situation where politicians can't go down that route anymore. It just doesn't work with the public at large. I think we're sick of seeing this endless parade of stories such as this, lives being upended, lives being ended. It really is a ghastly state of affairs we found ourselves in.
No, you make such a good point. Let's talk to one of the residents over in Uxbridge, or around that way. Wendy Spindler, welcome to the show.
Hello there.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you've done a lot of great work. I know that you organise a lot of these protests around these asylum seeker hotels that have cropped up in your area. I went to 3 of them just the other weekend. I was absolutely shocked at just how imposing they were in on the community. How is the community feeling tonight?
I think we're all angry. We're all scared. Again, it just shows that the fear of going out into our community after a certain time, we can't do that. Once at a place where you could walk down and you knew everybody and you could talk, that's gone. The community spirit has gone. And as I said, everyone is angry, upset and frightened. And that's how we now are living our lives. And as it's been said, West Drayton house the most amount of immigrants, 3 major hotels.
Illegal immigrants, yeah.
Illegal immigrants. And this is they're not fleeing from war zone countries, they're building an army. They are building an army to do with what, well, I think an answer is what's happened today, very clearly. That easily to happen. An innocent man walking down the road with his dog. And that could have been any one of us. And I would just like to say, if I could, my condolences go out to this family.
Yeah, I know. I've been speaking to a couple of people who know the bereaved wife of the man that was stabbed, and I just can't even imagine the heartbreak at this. It's so unnecessary. It didn't need to happen.
No, it didn't need to happen. And this has been going on for a long time. It's been drip, drip, drip over many years, I believe. This is what the end result is going to be. They are building an army. This is what is happening. And people can sit there and they can say, we can be accused of being racist, we can be accused of being far right. I'm neither of those. I am neither of those. And it's getting really boring now, if I'm honest. It's boring. The race card is not working anymore, and we are starting to stand up. People are scared to speak because of jobs. They could potentially lose their jobs, or they're frightened. And it's taken more and more people are coming out. And we have got to stop this. I've got children, I've got grandchildren. I've been on the end of 2 illegal immigrants at 3:25 in an afternoon with my 5-year-old grandson, where they blocked me and the security guard turned on his heels and walked away. And they said what they wanted to do with the chocolate milkshake that was in my basket at 3:25 in an afternoon.
That's what baffles me about this. This happened at 5 p.m. On a sort of suburban street where there are children playing, people getting ready for bedtime. It just baffles me how British communities have just been upended like this. And I do agree with you. I don't think that there's a racist element to saying we don't know much about these men. We don't know anything about these men. And they're mostly men, let's be quite frank, coming over here and claiming asylum when I don't even know if asylum is what they should be claiming. I mean, most of them are economic migrants. We know that from the statistics. Luckily, I've got an expert. I'm going to bring you in, Robert. I mean, what's your reaction to that? That's someone who is on the front lines of this crisis right now.
Yeah, well, Wendy really is on the front line. Hillingdon, of course, is the one area of the country that has seen the biggest explosion in the number of illegal migrants being housed. And I think, unfortunately, where Hillingdon is at the moment is where a lot of the country could very well be heading unless this crisis is gripped. We know that over the next few years, 92% of local authorities around the country will actually see a surge in the number of illegal migrants that are there being expected to house. And of course, this is a chap that actually got his asylum claim granted. You've actually had people in the Home Office going, yes, this is a man that we should take into our communities, we should take into our hearts, and we should, provide a better life to. And this is how he has gone about repaying us. Unfortunately, these are men that are coming in that we don't know anything about. This is the chap that's arrived in a lorry. We don't know his background. We don't know if he's got criminal records. We don't know where he's come from. We don't really know what he's done in the past.
He was happy to break the law when he broke into this country.
And that should be enough.
Right.
That should be absolutely enough. If they've come in via illegal means, lorries or boats, they should be out. They should be detained and deported. We should not be allowing the proliferation of HMOs or hotels. We certainly should be clamping down actually on the way that councils are going about allowing these HMOs to be really abused and utilised to effectively house either illegal migrants or people that are being kept on state support, because if it's an individual who's had his asylum claim granted, will likely be receiving support from the local authority, will likely be getting those bungs from the local authority, from the council. And, it really is a sickening state of affairs that this is how he's gone about repaying us. I don't know if there was a latent sort of dislike for this country or something like that, but it was clearly something in him that's just snapped, and he's realised that actually he has to go out and commit the single worst thing that you can do.
You make such a good point, Robert. I mean, I don't want to demonise all migration. I mean, I actually think that a lot of immigrants who used to migrate to this country back in the day, I'm talking 50, 60 years ago, treated that opportunity like a golden ticket opportunity. But now, you're right, they've taken our kindness for weakness, and they've completely slammed the door in the face of any opportunities that this country's given them. And this just infuriates me. You're right, we granted him asylum, and look what he's done. He's gone and tried to, well, he's a suspect still, so I really want to be careful here, but he has allegedly gone and killed a man, and a 14-year-old's been stabbed, and another in hospital. So do you feel safe? I mean, this sounds like a silly question at this point, but I spoke to little girls, 12 years old, this girl called Bella, who didn't even feel safe walking to school in West Drayton. I mean, is this community at breaking point, Wendy?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we have to be mindful of as well is, I mean, I saw that young girl speaking. I mean, absolutely amazing. She was amazing. And I think it's the fear factor. Yeah, we can all talk about things and rumours get started, people get scared, but we have the facts. This is happening. And like you just clearly said, it's not all it's not all people that have come over here and they've worked. I've got many friends of diversity, of different cultures, of all of that. So we're not, I am talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about the ones that assessments are done on them by social care, and the biggest battle, I'll tell you what the biggest battle is trying to prove that they're an adult because they want to be seen as a minor.
Right.
So that then causes a whole new process of, okay, they're actually telling us that they're 16 or 15. Actually, they're 27-year-old men. Or 30
I keep reading about these cases, and thank God I've got the expert in the room. I mean, you've seen these cases where people with grey hair and beards, and basically they're balding and they're saying they're a 16-year-old.
I think there was a 40-year-old actually finding himself in classrooms at one point, and of course there was the case of Thomas Roberts, the aspiring Marine, who was killed by an illegal migrant that had managed to convince local authorities A, that he should be put in foster care, and B, that he should be exposed to school children as well. We're one of the only countries in Europe that doesn't do biometric tests on these individuals, and Wendy makes a really good point, and actually the number of false claims that people are children is going through the roof, because they know that once they get sort of considered a child, that their claim is effectively exactly. And you know, we need to start doing biometric testing. We need to start checking teeth. We need to start making sure that individuals are who they say they are, because unfortunately the means through which they're coming into the country, we really don't know anything. I think only 2% of people that come across on small boats have actually arrived with passports. We've actually been able to corroborate they are who they say they are. You know, occasionally you get someone who's come in, we've said they're one name, and then subsequently down the line we've checked their name and it turns out they're a completely different bloke. So this is a situation where it's not just the boats coming across, it's the way in which officials and the state are actually then choosing to deal with these individuals as well.
You do make a really good point. I mean, even when I think about a 22-year-old Afghan national and what that man might have been through in his life, when you think about that time period in Afghanistan, I know this is kind of going back to the root cause of the problem, but we should be really assessing if we should be granting asylum to people from those countries in the first place. Because, you know, we take a lot of Iranian nationals in, we grant them asylum. That's not exactly a very, I don't know, gratuitous country towards the UK. And we know for a fact that some of them tried to plot against the Israeli embassy just earlier this year. So I think we also need to be thinking about which countries we are selecting. I mean, what would you say are the most high-risk countries, Robert?
Well, if you go on sexual offence convictions, then you can see that Afghanistan and Eritrea have a conviction rate that's 22 times the British rate for convictions.
Right.
So there's a very clear element there. But again, this is the kind of data that policymakers should be looking at, but they're clearly not. And you're absolutely right. When you talk about the socialisation process that people are going through early on in their lives, how they view their interrelationship with the state or with other parts of the community, there's a vastly different experience of how that works if you're coming from a place like Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, than there is if you're being raised in Britain. And that's a really key problem here, because there is and you know, this isn't controversial, it shouldn't be racist to say, there was a difference between a 22-year-old coming from Afghanistan versus a migrant coming as a pensioner from Switzerland. That's just a simple fact. But yet you can just hear the cries of execration as people sort of say, oh, you can't tarnish individuals with the same breath. And there's patterns here that we can see from the data. Government's not giving us enough data, but from the data you can see that certain nationalities, especially those coming across on small boats, are more likely to be involved in certain types of crime, whether it's drugs, whether it's violence, whether it's sexual assault as well. And this is the kind of stuff that policymakers, by choosing to ignore, are deliberately exposing the British public to greater risk than they need to.
I mean, exactly. Afghanistan is a country that's currently run by the Taliban, which is a terrorist organisation, and that tells you all you need to know about these people. And yes, I understand that a lot of people might be fleeing persecution, blah, 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 but this guy clearly doesn't want to start a better life in this country. I mean, he is still a suspect. We still don't know that much. But look, have you noticed, Wendy, the fabric of your community change by the fact that, I mean, I've been to the hotels, that you're surrounded by 3 different migrant hotels in your community?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just, you're on edge. You know, you drive past them and they're well, you would have seen the fence all the way around it. You know, in them days, they were 3 major hotels, nice hotels, really lovely, on top of Heathrow. You know, it brought people into our community. Obviously, it's a stop-off point. People would stay there. A lot of business people would come because we used to have a big business park here that's now gone. Everything in our community is going. We are left. And, you know, going back to what you just said quickly, because I don't want to step on that, is that my biggest problem is, like you said with the Afghans, is the different cultures. They're brought up differently, and they have different ways of how women and children should be treated. And I speak on behalf of the woman, being a woman. So I'm a second-class citizen. And, you know, the day that I was confronted by them, 100%, they wanted that control over me. They wanted to be able to intimidate me. And their body language was, I can do this and I have the right to do this, because it's their culture. Their culture is different. And, you know, if people are going to live here, that's fine. There has to be a solution for it. We can't keep doing this. Stop the borders. Stop letting any more in. It's something like last week or the week before, it was like 1,300 more came in. We can't take any more people. Where are we going to put them all? You know, and you get these people that say house the immigrants, you know, give them the legal immigrants, let them stay. You know, you're living in a nice little country place, are you, with your little flower boxes and everything, and you've got nice green places. Yeah, well, when they start building on there, all these places, because we've got to house them, then let's see where you are. I don't understand people's mentality, and it really scares me. It's a divide, and I'm fed up with the far right, far left. To be honest with you, I don't trust any politicians, if I'm totally honest. It's about safety and what is going on in our community. And if it isn't sorted, to be fair, I think we could potentially facing civil war, or there is going to be things happening. And you know, this is where we're getting to. This is serious now, but it's been drip, drip, drip over years to get to here. This is what they wanted, and they want to take over here. Sorry, but they do, and that's what's happening. And I've got, as I said, grandchildren. What's their life going to look like? What's it going to look like unless we do something now? And yes, we do protest, and we hope that it does something. You know, we keep them peaceful, and that's what we want. As I said, the first one was the big one, brilliant one it was, in West Drayton, and it was really good. But it
was very peaceful. I was there. Yeah.
But you get people saying that we're thugs because they want to shut it all down. Yeah, you get some people that want to kick off. You'll get that in anything. You know, I always use Parliament. Look at them when they argue and they squabble about what they said, childlike behaviour. So you're going to get it in anything. But this is serious now. It is serious. And then, unless Britain...
I mean, someone's dead. It is really, really serious.
You know, and that's not going to stop. That's not going to stop. That's going to happen again and again and again. There might be periods of time where there's a break from it, but that's what we're facing on the streets. That's the danger of walking out there and potentially getting stabbed. Yes, it was stabbings now. We read stabbings, don't we? This is where we are in society. Someone's got stabbed. Oh.
Yeah, it should not be the norm. And I think at the root cause of all your raw emotions that are just so powerful to have on the show tonight, Wendy, is just basic safety. And you shouldn't have to fight for that in your own country. But seemingly, that is the state that Britain's in at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us. I really, really do appreciate it. We're going to get Robert's thoughts on that after these messages.
and restore.
They genuinely don't think it's an issue that there are a load of people who are undocumented young males from far-flung countries from a very different culture from ours who have completely different attitudes to women and girls, that they are coming to this country and breaking into this country illegally in the United States. They genuinely think we're all racist and bigoted. They're thinking it's a problem. So they pretend to deal with it and they want us to stop talking about it because the solution is not to stop them coming in or to get rid of them. The solution is for everyone to shut the hell up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let me keep you updated on the situation. So a man has been arrested after 3 people were stabbed in Uxbridge, leaving 1 man dead. Police were called around 5 p.m. on Monday, so that's yesterday, to Midhurst Gardens, following reports of multiple stabbings. Now, a 45-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy were treated for stab wounds before being taken to hospital. The man's injuries are believed to be life-threatening, but life-challenging, but not threatening, while the boy's injuries are not life-threatening or life-changing. Now, a 22-year-old man who is an Afghan national who came here on a lorry in 2020 was granted asylum then 2 years later in 2022. He is the suspect who has now been arrested. That is what we know thus far. If we get any more updates, I will keep you abreast of this. But yeah, I mean, very powerful words from Wendy, that local resident just now. I mean, I feel like obviously you do all the behind the scenes research on this, but to hear that, I mean, does that just affirm what you're doing is right?
Well, yeah, I think the thing that really hit home with me was when she was talking about her own encounter with an illegal migrant and the sort of sense of despair and the shadow that has fallen over the community. And, you know, it's that sense that doesn't appear in the crime stats. So when you hear people like Sadiq Khan or Fraser Nelson pointing at charts and saying, oh, look, crime in London is down, they're not living every day on these streets. They're not having those micro interactions that really sort of shape the way you view society, maybe put a bit of fear into your belly before you go out and wander on the streets. You know, I'm not from London, but where I am from the north, we've got a similar situation where sort of, you know, the street corners are just full of large groups of men. You know, there are stories of sort of incidences taking place, and it all seeps through into the way you view not just your street, but the town and your general sense of engagement with civic life. And I think actually it goes to a bigger point that this asylum crisis is really tearing at the very, very fabric of the social contract, tearing at the way that people view their relationship with the state, because the state clearly isn't keeping them safe. The number of asylum applications that have just been waved through in recent years without really any due diligence being done makes most ordinary, normal thinking people look at the deal they're getting from government and think, these people aren't on my side. They're really not on my side. They're doing everything they can to effectively ignore my concerns, throw my money at this situation, all for this pursuit of kind of feeling good about themselves and upholding arcane notions of international obligation. I think it's time that we just start putting the people of this country first. I think the asylum system now has been so overswarmed in recent years, we just have to have a complete freeze on all future applications, because, you know, clearly some bad people are getting through the net as well. This is an individual that we literally said, we will grant you asylum, you are safe here now, welcome into our warm embrace. And then this is how he has turned around. And it's not just this chap as well, of course. There's another asylum seeker that has recently been convicted of sexually assaulting 3 women. There's an endless barrage of this stuff now, the Bel Epping Hotel as well. This is at a breaking point, really. And I think, really, unless politicians take a dramatic action, rather than trying to micromanage the situation and manage community tensions, there is going to be a huge electoral backlash over this Labour government, and frankly they deserve it.
You're so right, and I mean the civil war was mentioned in the segment beforehand. I mean, she's not wrong, and she's living in that community, and if that's how she's feeling, then those emotions are valid. Now, I'm not obviously saying that we're going to go into a civil war or anything, and I will just give the government some flowers to say, hey, they did actually say the immigration status of this guy pretty quickly off the bat, but that's only because of past incidences where we've had to come to our own conclusions about who people are.
Well, exactly. You can't convince me they actually wanted to give this information. They knew speculation was started. And it's actually a day later that we've only learned about this as well. There was another announcement after the event had happened as well.
Well, I was receiving videos last night and I was thinking, oh God, is this some sort of fake news thing? Because I'm not seeing it anywhere covered. And you're right, it's because they clearly want to stall this information from us, or that's what it seems. I mean, do you feel safe in your community? 0344 499 1000 is the number. I wanted just to quickly talk about this charity, because this kind of goes into everything that we've been talking about this evening. It's being bankrolled by the government using £385 million of taxpayer cash in order to put a positive spin on migration to schools. Can you tell me a bit more about that? This seems to be sort of your life's work going after this charity in a good way.
Yeah, so this charity has one of the biggest asylum contracts. It effectively runs the phone lines so that those migrants in hotels, if they don't like the food that's on offer one day or their bed's a bit uncomfortable, can call up 24/7 and have a bit of a moan, and then on the other end of the phone you get a sort of...
Are you joking?
This is genuinely what the hundreds of millions have been spent on. You've got a well-meaning kind of left-wing activist going, oh, that's so awful, we'll pass it on to the Home Office. So this is a charity that nominally is meant to be performing government functions. That is its intended purpose, but it has actually been, in recent years, massively engaged in campaigning against any measures to actually bring control to the Channel crisis. So it was at the forefront of the campaign against the Conservative Party's Rwanda plan. It was leading charges against that, saying it was inhumane. And of course now, as we're seeing, it's sort of adopting hobbies for itself and sort of extracurricular activities and doing all it can to really indoctrinate children. Effectively, that's what this is, you know, encouraging them to sort of see that, you know, this is a nation built on immigration and they should be writing love letters and so forth. But of course, it's not just this taxpayer-funded charity. There's a whole plethora of them. We're sending billions each year to sort of charities that are effectively working to keep our borders wide open. Some are actually doing far worse than this particular instance. Some are actually working with asylum seekers to help them go through the necessary checks so they can go into schools themselves and talk to children. Think about that. There is literally a charity that works with asylum seekers, so takes them into primary schools, lets the asylum seekers address the children one-on-one. I mean, as I said before, these are individuals we don't know anything about, and yet we have activist groups working to get these individuals in front of kids. It beggars belief.
Well, you're right. I mean, I'm not addressing this suspect specifically because I do want to be really careful about that. But I am thinking there are a lot of human rights lawyers that get these people through the cracks, as you say, and on their path to leave to remain or to claim asylum in this country. And I think those people really need to be held accountable when something goes wrong with someone that they've stood up for and invested their trust in. I mean, it does get really ridiculous. And you're right, it's this politicization of schools that we see with trans ideology. We see it with the pro-Palestine group. We see it now with pro-migration. You know, you have to welcome all immigrants, welcome all asylum seekers. I mean, I actually, when I was at school, there was quite a bit of that indoctrination going on already. So I hate to think about how bad it is now, just 5 years down the line, because that's when no, I'm joking. That's not when I was last in school. But anyway, I do think that it is a part of a more dark and insidious way of almost like sort of indoctrinating the younger children of this country.
It's communist theory, really, isn't it? Children are the future. If you can win over their minds whilst they're sort of open and to be shaped, then you shape the future generations of that society. When it comes to sort of talking about immigration in schools, effectively kids these days are being told downright lies. They're being told that, you know, without immigration, Britain would never have emerged as a country. England, even way back in the Anglo-Saxons, was this kind of multicultural, multi-ethnic mix. They are effectively rewriting our history to suit their own ideological paradigm, and unfortunately they've been doing it for several generations of people have come through having had this stuff indoctrinated into them, and you kind of see how parties like your party or the Green Party are doing in the polls, especially amongst younger voters. voters, and you realise that actually what we're starting to see is this year-long campaign coming to fruition, beginning to bear fruits, and actually you really don't know where in 10, 20 years' time these sort of children that have been subjected to such ridiculous nonsense are going to sort of view the world, whether they actually even believe in the nation state at that point, whether they actually even think Britain has in any way been a source for good in history. And I think unfortunately they have such a hold through unions, through councils, through all of these kind of individuals that have really done a sort of Gramsci-esque march through the institutions and now control all the levers of power, that you really don't know actually where this society will be steering, because we're completely unmoored from actual reality and history.
Genuinely, it is the truth, unfortunately, when you look at stuff like this and when you look at government expenditure. They do want to indoctrinate our children. Do you think that, audience? 0344 499 1000. I'll be talking about equally serious news after the break. Meghan Markle has launched a $64 candle. What? That and much more with Kinsey Schofield after these messages.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, Chris says stop importing millions of third world men legally and illegally who believe child sex is fine. I worked in Islamic countries and they see no wrong in women and oppression and animal sacrificial torture. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. They definitely live on a different timeline to us, that's for sure. Look, onto brighter things, but also people who do live on different timelines to us. Meghan Markle. I am so happy to have Kinsey Schofield in the studio, host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered, one of my favorite shows on the internet. I rush home and I watch it most nights, so I am just like, I'm having a bit of a fangirl moment, as always, with Kinsey. Kinsey, welcome. How are you finding London?
Well, you know, I feel so much more content now that we have new Meghan Markle news, because, like, do we go a day without her dropping a new piece of content or a new piece of information or a new publicist?
Well,
you know,
she called me poor in 3 different ways today, with her $16 sawdust and her $64 candle. In pounds, that would be about, what, 55 quid?
too expensive.
Oh my God, what do you make of this? I mean, none of it's sold out, by the way.
Right.
I mean, that baffles.
Those glory days are over.
No, they really are. I mean, what do we make of this? Is this just another struggle for the As Ever brand, which is basically dead in the water at this point? I mean, I didn't think we'd even see another release from her.
Yeah, well, with the candles, obviously, we're thankful that it's not the Vag candle like Gwyneth Paltrow.
I was thinking, yeah.
I mean, she's almost there. We're almost there. But it's so funny that she wants us to think about her royal history and her royal wedding when, remember, it was Sally Bedell Smith and Lady Elizabeth Anson. We had reports, thanks to Sally Bedell Smith, of how they terrorized the Queen around their wedding and how they isolated her and made her feel so excluded from the planning of their wedding. And then there were the famous stories around the time of their wedding about Meghan she hated the smell of St. George's Chapel. And she wanted to put like plugins, like, you know, American plugins.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, it doesn't smell like your trailer in Canada where you were filming Suits just a couple months ago. Like, sorry, it doesn't smell like the dingy water of the river. I mean, I just don't understand. Like, she wasn't used to this high standard, but suddenly she became a bridezilla when she started to get married to Harry.
Second wedding.
Well, you know, the second wedding brides are always another level. But yeah, no, you're right. I don't think about happy memories when I do think of their wedding. So I don't know why she'd allude to that.
Did you see that? Because I always associate their wedding with George Clooney, like, because they did not invite actual blood family members so that George Clooney could go. And in Virginia Giuffre's new book, she says that Ghislaine Maxwell claims she had a sexual relationship with George Clooney. And you know, I'm always screaming, like, you are who you associate with.
Right? And the Clooneys have denied that, by the way. I remember I saw a press release because they were so adamant to get that off their plate. But I've been reading the Virginia book, and it's very accurate in many ways.
Yeah.
So you're right. And you've been saying this too. We're going to talk to Andrew Lanning much later in the show, around 9 o'clock. But I do really go with your belief that they will kind of be the next Fergie and Andrew. The money-hungry, willing to associate themselves with whoever they want to.
Desperate.
These candles are not going to fund that lifestyle. It's not going to buy a Laura Piana sweater.
No.
Is that what you see for them? Do you see them as... I mean, Tyler Perry, who's obviously the godfather of their children, is still in hot water over allegations. Do you see them associating with more terrible people?
I do, because I feel like Meghan is just looking for the quick elevation, and then she drops those people. Look at Sophie Trudeau, who was her best friend during Archetypes, and now that Katy Perry has slid in and is dating Justin, I think she'll probably cozy up to Katy so she can have access to Justin, because Justin and Katy have more power than Sophie.
That's a great point.
And I mean, she burns bridges left and right. I think that this is like it looks like a hobby. I'm randomly releasing products that don't make sense while showing up at Paris Fashion Week, teasing potential makeup lines. There's no synergy to the brand whatsoever. You know, she loses her 10th publicist and claims that this woman was hired on a temporary basis to manage With Love Meghan. Okay, well, if she's gone and you're saying that she completed her work, then season 3's not on the horizon. There's just no synergy to the brand. There's no consistency to anything that's going on. And I would, you know, if somebody buys me an As Ever gift set full of loose fruit spread, that's like worse than Santa Claus's cold. Like, what have I done to deserve this? Like, what is the thinking process that Meghan really thinks that somebody's hit the jackpot with that under their Christmas tree?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. She's trying to, this is sort of her holiday collection. I mean, when she was teasing it, I really thought it would be way more than this. I thought it might be some sort of like
she
new
told
product.
us to save the date.
Oh, I know. I thought so much better of her. Like, she completely trolled me. And then I go on the page, because I am a bit of a fiend, but yes, I do it for journalistic purposes. And I see that she's put 3 jams together and she's calling it a pack. Yeah. And she's literally selling it for like almost
she's calling it a gift. Like that's a punishment.
Yeah, it really is a punishment. Like if there's someone you don't like this Christmas, maybe try and gift them that, because I've tasted the jam. It's one of the most disgusting things I've ever put in my mouth. It's
and you
horrible.
see that the packaging is so cheap. I couldn't believe I finally saw the packaging.
Yes, you
for the
did
first
the other
time.
week, yeah.
And you know, like you would expect the gold logo to actually
embossed.
be yes.
It's not.
Oh my gosh, it's the cheapest packaging. It's the you just everything looks so sloppy and lazy, which is a great way to define Harry and Meghan's professional career since 2020. But yeah, this was kind of I remember like in the last 48 hours, we've been like, here's a great topic. We're going to have Meghan's teasing something big. It's happening Tuesday, October 28th. And then when I saw the article about it, I thought, for the love of God, this is just classic Meghan, over-promising, under-delivering.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real letdown for the 3 fans that she has, or like the 39 people that watched the Fortune live stream that she did when she did that interview. I mean, you can see, I've just gone on the site now because I'm thinking, oh, I checked it a couple hours ago. Nothing is sold out. And I think she's gone on all these business, like she's tried to posit herself as this businesswoman. I do wish she was going on sort of the more trashy shows. I liked when she was on Drew Barrymore, actually, weirdly. I didn't like her on it, but I liked seeing her in that environment because it was more suited to her.
Yeah.
Her trying to poise herself as this like Bloomberg, like Fortune 500 woman, that's not her. Especially,
look, I grew up with a father that owned an insurance company, and we would all have to get in the car to go physically chase the checks that he was owed. We'd get home, he'd tuck me into bed, and then I'd hear the garage door go up because he was going to stock groceries to ensure that he could pay the mortgage. You know, my dad busted his ass. Oh, sorry. And then you
it's fine, that's fine.
And then you watch someone like Meghan Markle, who has been given everything because she married a man, and she's arguing that she's a feminist. And she's arguing that she's opening up all of these doors, and she's just, she's created all of these opportunities for herself. I was an entertainment reporter for 20 years before I heard the name Meghan Markle, and it was because she was dating a prince named Harry. I'd never heard of this woman before, and every Bloomberg, Fortune, I get a kick out of watching that stuff because have you ever seen a bigger imposter in your life?
Well, I don't know if you saw the uncut video from the Fortune thing, but I did hear people laughing in the background when she was getting introduced, and they've actually cut that out of the live stream, but it is true. When she goes on these Emma Grede, I mean, even when she was on Emma Grede's podcast, you could see the imposter right there, but she's got whatever the opposite of imposter syndrome is. She seems to think that she's all that. Do you think there's any future for this woman? First of all, her marriage looks like it's absolutely in the toilet. Her dressing as a toilet roll maybe was some sort of allusion to that at the Balenciaga fashion show. But without the marriage, and we do see choppy waters, do you think there's anything in the future that Meghan will ever sort of achieve?
Vanity Fair got away with publishing that she was already trying to shop a post-divorce book. I mean, imagine the attorneys that combed over that article and the questions that they brought to that journalist and the concerns that they brought to that journalist. These are 2 of the most litigious people we've ever covered professionally. They love to sue. It excites them in some way. And Vanity Fair published that report that there are allegations that Meghan's team are going to publishers saying, how much could we get if we can provide you with a manuscript post-divorce? And I'm sure that would involve royal revelations, and I'm sure that would involve how unhinged Prince Harry can be allegedly and paranoid. And that's
not
the
like
path.
The videos don't prove that.
That's her path. I really feel like that's her only path.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, she'll forever kind of be this swindler, this person who just tries to cotton on to the next thing. But as Tina Brown so eloquently put it, she amazed Harry because she could make a restaurant reservation, and that amazed him at the time. And that always just signifies their relationship to me as to what it is. It's like 2 very mediocre people coming together and being wowed by each other. Speaking of mediocre, if you do want a Christmas gift, make sure you go to asever.com. There's a lot of loose fruit spread available. If you've got an extra $42 lying around for some jam, definitely go there and get your holiday gifts. We're going to be taking your calls next. Thank you so much to Kinsey Schofield for coming in. It's crazy to see you in person sometimes because you exist in this halo of Hollywood in my mind. Yeah, we will hopefully talk again. Actually, we'll be on What Just Happened together this week, so I'll be seeing you.
It's going to be so cute. I can't wait.
Kinsey has a crazy costume. You will really, really want to stay tuned for the Halloween special because it's not one you want to miss. Your calls after the break, 0344 499 1000 is the number. Give me a call. Anything you want to talk about. Maybe it's loose fruit spread. Maybe it's this crazy Afghan migrant. I mean, all the levels are being touched today on this show. See you then.
They genuinely don't think it's an issue that there are a load of people who are undocumented young males from far-flung countries from a very different culture from ours who have completely different attitudes to women and girls, that particularly that they are coming to this country and breaking into this country illegally in the middle of the day. They genuinely think we're all racist and bigoted. They're thinking it's a problem. So they pretend to deal with it and they want us to stop talking about it because the solution is not to stop them coming in or to get rid of them. The solution is for everyone to shut the hell up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Ian says the Royals this week are a mixture of candle in the wind and scandal in the wind. Yes, very true, Ian. Let's go over to Tarquin in London, and I've got Robert Bates, the director at the Centre for Migration Control, back in the studio, so feel free to talk to him too. Now he's not going to, he's going to be very unhappy that I've just said that, but do talk to both of us. Tarquin, welcome to the show.
Samara, you're doing a great job in this evening's slot. How are you
Oh,
finding
thanks, Tarquin. Yeah, no, I'm loving it. I mean, yeah, I don't think Kev's ever going to shove me behind the other side of the glass ever again. So, yeah, I'll be
it?
here.
I think not. I think your talent is far too great on this side of the glass, my dear.
How much has she paid you, Tarquin? What's going on?
Don't tell them. Don't tell them.
I think there's something that Robert said earlier. I forget. I've been in and out of the rooms. I'm not quite sure if it's the same chap. Hopefully it was Robert. Robert made a very
it's the same Robert.
Too earlier on about Gramsci. Was that you, Robert, that mentioned Gramsci earlier?
That probably would have been, yeah. That's a pointless undergraduate degree in politics for you.
Yeah, this is the part of the problem. I think the Gramsciist Fabian policy, and anyone can go on YouTube and look up George Bernard Shaw talking about his support for what the Fabian Society was about, and it is no less than eugenics, my dears. So check out, that's what we're dealing with here. But they're doing it softly, wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the way that
That's their logo.
Yep.
For anyone that's not listening, just a quick sort of cliff notes on the Fabian Society. It is a left-wing, basically think tank, would you say? That pretty much every Labour person under the sun has been a part of at some point.
Exactly, or at least a drinks sort of reception at some point. It is sort of the beating heart, actually, really, of this government, I'd say. Really.
Totally. And the wolf in sheep's clothing as their logo is almost the fact that they're hiding in plain sight. They're not even quiet about the reforms that they want to make to the system. So, yeah, you make a really good point, Tarquin.
And the point I'm making about this reference as to who we're actually dealing with, we have to know who we're dealing with. Find out who your enemy is, keep them close, and your friends close, enemies closer. This is what we're dealing with, guys. Now, they've got 4 years in the running into 2029. They are going to flood the borders with as many of their brand new constituency voters, a.k.a. these illegals, these criminals. They're going to vote for them because they're getting freebies en masse from this so-called government of what we've got at the moment, the incumbents. And that is what we're dealing with. Now, quite what we're going to do, hopefully that Nigel, whoever it is going to be, that can actually say on day one of the next government, Labour knows that this is their existential, this is their last ditch. They are finished after this because people hate them so much because of the way they're destroying, and not just our economy, but our culture is being killed.
Would you agree with that, Robert?
Completely. I think the 2029 election probably is going to be our last chance to properly reverse the trends that we are on, especially when it comes to the borders. I think when you look at some of the alliances that are starting to emerge as well between these various factions of the left, the Greens, the sort of Islamists.
Your party.
Your party. It's a really, really dangerous state of affairs. And I think what we've seen in the last couple of months is the Labour Party actually now flanking left to try and gobble up again some of those disillusioned voters, having sort of spent the last year trying to play catch up with reform. I think that is really where the damage is going to come from over the next 4 years. This obsession they have with this ever-growing electoral base. As you rightly point out, they are sort of bringing in en masse. They're giving lots of sort of citizenship grants out at an ever-increasing rate as well. So this is probably an element of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of I've been going on the pro-Palestine, or I had been going on the pro-Palestine marches in a purely journalistic capacity, and I was talking to people. God, it was like torture, to be honest, going on them, because they were. I mean, it's just surrounded by idiots. But the thing is. What was most interesting, actually, in my opinion, was that everyone hated Starmer. There were massive posters that were like, screw this guy. And it just shows me that Starmer's trying to please everyone, but he's actually pleasing nobody at the same time.
Apparently he's a wonker. Did you know that?
What, like the chocolate factory?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, like a chocolate. Starmer is, he's not popular really with anyone at the moment, and you're right. And it was a real issue in the US, actually, as well, where they were seeing real shifts in their voter bases because they had a lot of illegal migrants coming over the border and then kind of getting status or getting a green card. And that was also shifting demographics. So, no, you make a good point, Tarquin. Thank you for your call. Do keep listening, and we will discuss way more about this in the show. Let's go to Mick in Sheffield. Mick, welcome.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Just give me a quick goal reference these latest horrific attacks, these stabbings in London. And to be honest with you, my opinion is they'll do nothing about it. Like they'll do nothing about the grooming gangs. They'll just water it down. And a question I'd like to ask Starmer and these other MPs that come on with these speeches they'll come out with tomorrow is, what peace or comfort do you think these pointless words give to the people that have just lost someone? because it's pointless. It means
Empty
nothing.
platitudes, you're right, Mick.
And I also believe the reason he'll do nothing about the migrant situation is same as the grooming gang situation, is because the majority follow one single belief. And that vote is crucial to Starmer. He won't risk that vote, and that's what it's all about. It's not about the people. It's not about anything other than self-preservation.
Well, I think you're right about nothing being done. When we look even at David Lammy yesterday in the Commons and him being questioned about a convicted sex offender walking free under his watch, and then him saying, oh, we'll do an inquiry about it. We're going to do another inquiry. Well, we know that inquiries solve nothing, quite clearly, in this country. I mean, did you have anything to say to that, Robert? Do you think nothing will be done about this situation?
Inquiries are basically the way the Labour government is using them anyway, for them to park uncomfortable issues and to have some crusty old lord sort of wheeled out to kind of pretend they're surveying all the information, whereas in reality, actually, it seems like, especially when it comes to the grooming gang inquiry, the sort of train of thought for that has already been set and preordained by the government. You know, they've decided they don't actually want to have those uncomfortable conversations, which they know will upset a large part of the voter base. And, you know, sort of, especially on a local level across Greater Manchester and parts of Yorkshire as well, this is a situation where many Labour elected officials are very reliant on that community and keeping the peace with that community to maintain their own position as well. So I think there's a lot of self-preservation going on. As for the inquiry, when it comes to the release, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's farcical. Someone has really, really messed up and they need to be found. That's straightforward. We don't need an inquiry to know that this has been a huge mistake by the government. And, you know, Lammy's saying he's going to be able to deport this individual by Sunday. I think we need to really, really hold him to that and make sure that if this individual...
The parameters keep moving. It was by Tuesday last time. And
was
now
it by Tuesday?
Well, no, but now it's... But you're right. Now it is, by Sunday it'll happen. I mean, come on.
Well,
how
exactly.
hard can it be?
But you can guarantee that won't happen, and he'll be back at the dispatch box on Tuesday saying more words like, oh, we're working incredibly hard, don't worry, we've got this as our top priority. If this is their top priority, I'd hate to see what's further down the list and where they treat it, because frankly they are doing nothing. They're sitting idly by whilst this chaos just goes on and on and on.
Well, you're completely right, Robert, and we will be keeping you for the next hour. After the break, we're going to go back to West Drayton and talk to yet another community member who's absolutely at wit's end with what is going on in his town and what happened with the Afghan migrant just yesterday. 0344 499 1000 is the number if you want to get in touch and talk to Robert or I about any developments and any feelings you have towards this crazy, horrible news that has come out. We will be with James Timms after the break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and welcome back to the Political Asylum. It is just after 8 o'clock. I am Samara Gill, in for the great Kevin O'Sullivan, and I am in the studio with Robert Bates, the director at the Centre for Migration Control, to bring everyone up to speed, because I do want to shed light on this story. Basically, an Afghan migrant chased a man and boy down the street before stabbing a dog walker to death when he tried to intervene. Now, there are some videos out there. They're pretty gruesome. I've seen some stuff that I, quite frankly, wish I hadn't seen today. The dog walker was knifed to death when he tried to stop a screaming knifeman chasing a man and boy down the street, witnesses have claimed. Now, a suspect, who is a 22-year-old Afghan migrant, has been remanded in custody. We are waiting for more details there. He is just a suspect at this point. I do want to make that very clear. But we do know from the Home Office that he is a 22-year-old Afghan national who arrived in the UK via a lorry in 2020, and he was granted asylum to this great country 2 years later. Now, the community is furious. I mean, it actually baffles me that I was on a march with this community just 2 weeks ago, and they were saying that, you know, their women and girls predominantly felt so unsafe, too unsafe to even walk the street at night. And this is more a conversation about community safety and how the community is feeling on this night, when we've got one man dead and two in a terrible condition. So let's talk to James Timms. He's a local resident and someone who I've quite frankly become friends with because we do text quite a lot, and I do like to hear from him what's going on in his community and how people are feeling. James, welcome to the show.
Good evening. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I mean, how is the community feeling on this really, really dark night?
Well, as you can probably imagine, the messages and the calls that I've had myself, and just the general atmosphere when you're walking around, or you've even been driving around this afternoon or this morning since this happening on Monday evening, it's just shocking. You know, I've been up there personally myself to pay my respects and put some flowers down. You went to the vigil, didn't you? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. It's not quite like what it is this evening. I have found out from other contacts and friends as well that there is a gathering of about 1,500 people up there at the moment. Wow. All lighting candles and putting flowers to pay their respects. But as you can imagine, you know, everybody's in just disarray. You know, this was, as you'd say, probably a long time coming, unfortunately, you know, and this is now the product and the proof in the pudding. Yeah, you make a really good point there. I mean, I think when I was talking to the community, they were just feeling this general sense of just not feeling safe. And we know that the incident happened on a street. We don't know if it's connected yet, by the way, but we know that it happened on a street where there was a HMO, which it was a house of multiple occupancy. We also know that this happened to someone who was a resident on that same street. Yeah. I mean, when you want to do a basic thing like go and walk your dog at night, are you now having to think twice? I don't walk my dog out late in the evenings at all anymore. I'm an owner of a French bulldog, and she's as happy as Larry, and I take her out all the time. But no, I've now restricted the times that I take her out in the evening because I just don't want to put myself at risk. And I should imagine that's the same for a lot of people that have dogs, given that this gentleman was minding his own business. An altercation between this gentleman and somebody else has come up, and unfortunately the first person that came into sight of view was this poor gentleman. And now this is, like I said, you know, this is the proof in the pudding that the problem in the borough and elsewhere is just getting worse. And it's not just limited to women and children now. You know, they're now, you know, they don't care who they attack. Yeah, well, you make a really good
point there, because a witness has told that the victim of the stabbing was very well known around the area. That was given to the Daily Mail, and it said the knifeman was chasing a man and a boy around the road, and a local man who was with his dog tried to stop it. So quite frankly, a hero. And another local told the outlet he is a lovely guy. He was very gentle and peaceful. I mean, that's just heartbreaking. He was trying to help, and it's ended up costing him his life. Wow. Ben James, who was another witness who was there, said, I've got a family member who lives at the top of this road where the incident happened. There was a lot of screaming and shouting, and that's all she heard. As she came up there were piles of blood, and I saw 2 people on the floor, and there was a tent up as well. So the guy that the Afghan who was allegedly involved in this, the suspect, didn't have any wounds. I know that there was medical attention at the scene brought towards him. I mean, this is a community in complete disarray. I want to bring Robert Bates into this, director at the Centre for Migration Control. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, James can't even go and walk his dog at night in this community. I do know, yes, they are on the front lines of this. They've got massive 3 migrant hotels and I think 9 HMOs, if I'm not correct, within the area.
Probably at least that.
Right. And it has really tarnished the fabric of this town.
Yeah, and I think the fact that there's 1,500 people out tonight at a vigil really shows just how far-reaching such acts are when it comes to having an actual profound impact on how people view their community and how they view their day-to-day lives on the streets. 9 HMOs is housing would-be illegal migrants. I think really is just the tip of the iceberg. Probably in Hillingdon, I'd imagine that there is far more than that are going under the radar. And what you see in London across the board is just landlords, unscrupulous landlords, really being allowed by local councils to effectively just convert houses, sometimes even without the proper planning permission, just to accommodate these individuals. I think unfortunately far too much has been given leeway-wise when it comes to how this is dealt with on a non-national level, on a local level. And what you really see actually is a lot of this stuff is just happening now completely unaided, completely not being vetted, not being controlled. People are just being left to fend for themselves, really. The police force in London really is overwhelmed as it is. We could really do without this extra imposition of thousands of individuals that seem, again, allegedly like they just want to come and cause harm and cause evil on the streets of London.
No, that's so
totally
true.
Agree.
Yeah, sorry, James, anything to say to that?
No. At the end of the day, I mean, this is the probably the second stabbing within weeks, but I mean, obviously this Afghan migrant has stabbed multiple people on Monday. So just prior to
obviously that's all alleged. I don't have a statement about that particular incident. But yes, sorry, go on, James.
But this is the second occasion where we've had a stabbing within the borough. We had a local taxi man a few weeks back that had been picking up some passengers at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they jumped out of the cab after having an argument with the driver and then proceeded to stab him 6 times.
James, if you don't mind me asking, have you been on some of the protests previously against the situation in Hillingdon?
Yes, I have. I had helped organise the...
James, one of the main organisers, actually. That's why, that's
not worthy.
For the 18th of August, So I actually work quite closely with Wendy as well now. We've sort of brought our contacts and brought everything that we can bring to the table together to really get ourselves out there, and especially for our next march as well, which is going to be in remembrance of the people that got us to where we are here today. So we will be putting that out as our Remembrance Sunday march to promote the people that are not here anymore, the soldiers that have given their lives for where we are today and our freedom of speech and everything else. So, we're proud to be British, and we would love for everyone to come and show their respect for our fallen loved ones. And, we're not going anywhere, and this is just absolutely disgraceful what this has happened. And this just proves that something's got to change. It really does.
Well, I think that's very important, the reassertion of what makes a community and what makes Britain actually in the face of such a awful thing is just to kind of, you know, reassert and make sure that those
Yeah, you're
binds
right.
aren't being completely eroded by actually this evil that is being put in our midst by hapless governments and councils. I think it's really important to, almost effectively, we're going to have to take it into our own hands to make sure that this country survives on some kind of civic level and start doing these things, such as yourself. You know, you see up in Wirral the cancelling Remembrance Sunday parades. It feels like basically the only people keeping Britain alive and keeping it functioning is the people at this point that are organising on a grassroots
Do you know what?
level.
I think this is why it's so important now that we have had controversy in regards to the date that we're doing our Remembrance Sunday walk, obviously given that it is on the Remembrance Sunday. But we are still allowing people to take their time at 11 o'clock to pay their respects to their family members. But we're also going to do that ourselves, you know, so we'd like to invite everyone to come down at 12 o'clock, 12:30 down to Mulberry Parade, where we will do a walk down to the West Drayton Cemetery, where they have a war memorial there, and we will do a 2-minute silence as respect to all of our downed soldiers and fellow soldiers that are currently serving now as well. And then we will go on to where one of the hotels is, the Crown Plaza Hotel, and we will get up on the grass verge there and we will get our voices heard. You know, we're promoting anyone that has fallen loved ones, family that was in the war that have given their lives, and even people now that are serving. Come down, bring pictures of your family members, show your respect. And I think this is now a massive time to actually do this and show that, you know, we're not going to be forgotten. These people are not going to be forgotten for what they've done for us. And this is, we've given everything that's happened. This is absolutely vital.
I agree. It is that sort of glimmer of hope when you do see these vigils being prepared, the community coming together. I know that when I was on one of those marches in West Drayton in Hillingdon, it was really that sense of community is something that you just don't get, especially where I live over in London. I mean, you don't even know the neighbour you're living next door to in these central cities. So it was actually lovely to see a community come together. You know, there was a bouncy castle, there were kids. It was actually just sort of, you know, a community that was concerned for their safety, but trying to band together and fight for what they actually believed in. So I agree with you. I mean, these marches, they're peaceful. You keep them peaceful. I've seen you working very hard to do that, because obviously there's a lot of emotions going on. But do you think that with this, I mean, it's almost a silly question at this point, but are tensions very heightened now going into that?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are obviously concerned, and you know, this has just raised people's fears even more. You know, and this is why I think more than anything now we need to raise attention to this, and we need to get people to open their eyes and say, you know, look, enough's enough. Our local schools are surrounded by these migrant-run hotels. We've got local HMOs constantly growing within the area, and it's just not fair to the people that are having to normalise this behaviour. It really isn't. So, you know, yes, I think as terrible situation as it is, now is a time to really put our foot down and get our voices out there.
Well, back to this current horrendous stab horror. You know, we've got one man dead. We've got another in a bad condition, thankfully not life-threatening, and a 45-year-old man also badly hurt with life-changing injuries. What would your message be to Keir Starmer, who, weirdly, yes, is our current Prime Minister, but doesn't seem to be giving a toss about the migrant crisis at the moment? I mean, just last week we saw that his one-in, one-out scheme, which was all about returning migrants back to France, one of them had actually made it back into the country because they do like the 4-star hotels. Now, by the way, I'm not talking about this current Afghan migrant case, but I am just talking about the migrant context in a wider way, because we are talking about those hotels that surround your current area, and that's what's mainly making people feel unsafe. So what would your message be to Keir Starmer right now?
You know, I'd love for Keir Starmer to just take a step back from his current situation, from where he lives, and put himself in our community. Put yourself in any community that is surrounded. Put your family there, and tell us that you feel safe to have your child playing around outside. You feel safe to let your child walk up to the shops on their own and back. Because I know damn right he would never Never do that. We need Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer, if you're listening to this or you see this, seriously, you really have to wake up. The country is going to end up in civil war and something has to be done. You've got to start listening to the people of this country. You really have.
Wow, I mean, very strong words, and you're right in the eye of the storm there, James. Robert, would you have anything to say to that? Would you echo the sentiment of James right now? I mean, that community, they've had enough.
Yeah, but listening to James and listening to Wendy, you know, I do think there is a sort of a glimmer of hope in this, in that sort of communities that are being put upon so egregiously by the government and by this crisis are really starting to find a collective voice and a collective identity, and actually starting to really get back in touch with one another and really sort of reassert actually what they are proud about with their local community. And, you know, identities and strong identities often are unfortunately forged in the face of adversary, and it really does feel like most communities around the country at the moment are facing real adversarial conditions.
Yes.
And I think you know, you look across the country, these Pink Lady protests in the north as well, people peacefully, almost in a sort of jolly spirit, protesting against asylum hotels. I think there is something in that I think actually the grassroots and ordinary people across this country, something has clicked in them as a result of this crisis, and they've actually started to get a real sense of civic pride and that desire to push back against what's been imposed on us for far too long.
No, that's so true. I do agree, and when I was at that march, I did feel that sense of community, as I said, and it's something so rare these days. So that's I agree with you. There is that slight chink in the curtain there.
It's very much a silver lining of a cloud. It would be much better if the situation wasn't happening.
Yes, but I agree. Let's not let something like this divide the community. I think it should unite the community. And you know, I've been on those protests, and they're very diverse. They're a diverse group of people who just want the best for their community. It's nothing about race. It's nothing about, you know, what people will have you believe. It's just about people feeling safe. Or at least that was my understanding of what was going on.
That's exactly what we're going for. You know, we want people to be able to feel safe going out their front door, to let their kids play in the front gardens, or, you know, for your grandmother or your grandfather to be able to go down to the shops with their Zimmer frame, or even if they're in a disability motor or a mobility car or anything like that, you know, just to be able to go out and not have that fear that the person walking towards you could be a rapist, could be a paedophile, could be a complete undocumented serial killer. And this is what we are having to normalise on our streets. So no, enough is enough. You know, we have got to get it out there that we need everybody to wake up, everybody to pull ranks and just show that, you know, enough is enough. Hillingdon says no. Every borough, every county should be saying the same, that we've all had enough.
If this doesn't make the government wake up, I mean, if someone who is dead doesn't make the government wake up, I don't know what will, genuinely. But good luck with your march. I hope I can make it out there.
Thank you,
James.
yeah, we'd love to see you down there.
Thank you, and keep doing what you're doing, because it's all very much in the name of safety for the community, something that clearly doesn't exist for West Drayton at the moment, and Uxbridge and that whole community there. So yes, my goodness, I mean, powerful words from those residents. Genuinely, I really, really am quite affected by it, because it's something where if that was my community, I'd be much more outraged than that. But you can see that they're just quite calm about it. They know what they want to do. They know the change that they want to affect, and they're going to do it in a peaceful way. I think that's also something that should be stressed.
Well, and that's Britain at its best, really. Sort of quiet dignity,
right.
Standing down the barrel of stuff that does feel existential at time, with a sort of dignity and a kind of, well, let's roll our sleeves up and let's get some stuff done. And hopefully, you know, you've seen how effective it was in Epping. When communities can appropriately mobilise, then actually change can be enacted. The question is whether the Labour government actually will pull the finger out and do anything meaningful. They probably won't, but then the hope is that come 2029, they are absolutely annihilated and wiped out by these little pockets of people, communities across the UK that have just simply seen what they love upended and have said enough is enough.
That's a good question. Will the Labour Party do anything about this? I mean, will they respond to this absolutely egregious attack on people in the streets of Britain just wanting basic safety? 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Give me a call. I've got a couple lines open. I will be taking your calls later on in the show. But after the break, NHS strikes. Apparently, Wes Streeting is saying that we won't be held ransom to the striking doctors. Well, I'm going to talk to one after these messages.
If you look at Theroux's previous documentaries, he has challenged anti-Semites. He has tried to explain to his audience what hate speech is. And yet in this interview, he didn't challenge him on some of the most disgusting hate speech that has been espoused. So in failing to challenge, he provided a platform, amplified some views without that kind of qualification, without that context, and didn't really give the audience a proper chance to make its own mind up.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, NHS strikes, what's new? Honestly, this seems to be the news every single week. Junior doctors, I want more money, I want more money. Please give me a break. We don't need to give you any more money. You've already had multiple pay rises. Every time I check my thing, it's another pay rise for a junior doctor out there. I mean, last time I checked, I didn't receive a pay rise. How come you get one? I mean, has anyone, call me if you've received a pay rise in the last year, because I'd love to know, because I don't think there are many people out there who have. 0344 499 1000 is the number. If you want to call me and talk about that amazing 22% pay rise that you got. Let's talk to someone who has received a pay rise. It's Dr. Bushra Mukherjee, which I probably butchered your name, and being half Indian, I should know better. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's Dr. Pasha.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. That's probably a reason why you shouldn't be getting a pay rise, eh?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna go cry now. Look, why do you need a pay rise? I mean, even Wes Streeting said that you don't deserve one.
Well, first of all, I'm a GP, so I'm no longer going to be eligible for these pay rises that we're talking about.
Oh, thank God.
And this is a multifactorial thing that we've been talking about for over 2 years now. The previous government failed us, and Wes Streeting looked like he was turning things around. He made promises a year ago, which he has not kept his end of. The deal was that we would be getting full pay restoration. I say we, but actually it's the resident doctors here because I'm a GP now. But it's not just a case of getting the pay restoration. It's the fact that there's no longer job security as a doctor. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine a world where we wouldn't need doctors? I mean, there are patients who cannot see their GPs, cannot access their appointments, and yet there are doctors currently, resident doctors, who are sitting at home jobless because there isn't enough work out there for them. And that's the shocking part.
Well, can you imagine a world where you can't get an appointment with the NHS? Oh, wait, that is the world we're living in right now. I mean, it's pretty ludicrous to think that doctors continue to strike. I mean, I thought it was a profession that people go into to help people, but clearly it's a profession that people go into when they just want to make money.
I think that's, unfair to say in a country like the UK, which is not definitely paying as much as many other countries around the world. And if you think about what it takes to become a doctor, you can take that particular skill set and qualifications, go anywhere else in the world. And doctors at the moment are being forced to leave the country, forced to uproot from their homes, leave their families behind, leave their home, everything behind in order to find work. We were talking about this on this channel before, that when they become a consultant, they do get pay rises. But at the moment, there's not enough training positions for resident doctors. They can't train to become specialists. And this is why patients cannot get their appointments. There aren't enough doctors.
Robert, I can see you absolutely. I've got Robert Bates in the studio here. Robert, I can see you bursting for
Well, look, I don't
question.
often agree with Wes Streeting, but I think the point he did make on Laura Kunzberg on Sunday, that actually, the inability to invest in those training places that you're so keen to have is somewhat scuppered when we are having to spend extra money to overcome the hurdles that are being imposed on the NHS by such strike action. I just think it's quite a mean-spirited thing to be doing at a time when the country is clearly struggling across the board. And as Samara was saying, you know, we really aren't seeing much prosperity trickling down to anyone here. We're all really up against it. We've all been hit by inflation and the cost of living. And I just think at a time when it's quite clear West Streeting isn't going to budge on this, I don't know what a strike will accomplish apart from upending and affecting the lives of people that have maybe been waiting months for an appointment. And, you know, you think about how widespread actually this problem is when it comes to people waiting for appointments and how many people know someone that is waiting for an appointment. I really don't see how this will make those striking doctors any more popular, make the public more sympathetic towards their demands.
And this is a very good point, because we've seen the number of people, or number of doctors who have actually been, you know, voting to strike dwindle. And this worries me. You might think that means those doctors are not going to be striking, but what worries me is the fact that these doctors are losing faith in their employer and therefore thinking about leaving the country or leaving to go to private. And right now, more colleagues of mine are considering going into private than they are thinking about staying in the NHS. And that's a really sad state of affairs. It is awful. The state of the country is awful when nobody's disputing that. None of us actually want to be striking. Nobody wants to be at this point at all. And this is why we've given enough notice for these strike actions in order for the hospitals to prepare for those shifts. No one wants this, and I'm sure West Streeting doesn't want this as well. He was the successful person to put the strikes to an end a year ago. It's him who has failed us in terms of not being able to keep his end of the bargain. And we're not just talking about pay restoration, it's the pay conditions as well. Doctors and role of doctors is being eroded and faded away, and the same powers, not powers maybe, things that they are able to do, the role what they're supposed to do, is being given to cheaper staff, essentially, whether that is people that are being employed from you know, across the globe. We're stealing doctors from across the globe because we can pay them less, essentially. That's what the NHS is doing. And also get, you know, PAs, pharmacists, nurses, they're giving away the roles. The training positions are going to these roles. So resident doctors, regardless of their skill sets, are currently jobless, and this is the sad part.
Well, I just think the line as well that sort of, you know, if we don't sort of bend to all these demands, people are going to be flocking overseas, abandoning the NHS, when you consider the fact that it is really the taxpayer that stumped up the cash initially to give these people the skills with which they're able to sort of exert such blackmail as well. I think there needs to be a recognition that sort of the British state, although it's less than perfect, the British taxpayer and the establishment has made sort of accommodations to actually allow you to pursue this career that you clearly want to pursue, and has put a lot of money behind you to do it as well. So sort of abandoning up in sticks and abandoning the country after just a couple of years because you've not got exactly sort of exactly the demands you want.
What are you supposed to do if you haven't got work? If you can't get work, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I agree with you that there is a lot more that can be done when it comes to training places. I also think we've got a big problem when it comes to training our own domestic workers in universities. I think the idea of having a cap on places at university colleges is a ridiculous one, especially when we are increasingly reliant on bringing in medical professionals from overseas. I think actually we need to do a lot more to boost that funding, but this isn't really what is being discussed here. It's talking about that next stage of things, and it's talking about sort of this sense of people having a career progression and this sense of sort of actually coming down to it, wanting a bit more money as well.
And speaking of money, I mean, according to an NHS junior resident, the doctor basic sort of salary is £38,000 per year, and then it ranges up to £73,900 for a senior specialist. I mean, it's not exactly a job like a Tesco sort of pay level. There is a moral argument to also say, what about the people in those wards that we've heard about that end up dying because they haven't been able to receive basic care because doctors have decided to just walk out? I mean, I just don't understand where the sort of the love for caring and the Hippocratic Oath comes into this. It goes completely against that.
Well, I want to just say that, first of all, it's not like that exactly. It's only the routine appointments that are going to be likely to be affected by this. I do agree that this is meant to cause disruption. And this is supposed to be done in the
routine appointments are very important, though. They can pick up on things like cancer, etc. And then down the line, there'll be more pressure on the NHS because these routine appointments weren't done. It's similar to what happened during COVID.
This is why none of us want this, and it just needs to be looked at through.
None of us want this. You just said that you are for the strikes.
I am in favour of the strikes because the alternative is much worse. If we take the right away from the doctors to strike, then we risk not enough First of all, not enough doctors staying in the NHS. Second of all, we make it an uninspiring career. It's already an uninspiring career for
Does a career need to be inspiring? I mean, honestly,
well, I don't agree with that. Well, I think
we need young people, young minds in this country to train up, the best minds in this country with the best grades, let me remind you, to train up and stay in the NHS. And in order for that faith to be restored in the NHS, we need to make it lucrative. We need to give incentives. And at the moment, with the state of affairs, I mean, I speak to young medical students, they feel a sense of despair. They don't look forward to going to work. Imagine being burnt out even before you've started your career, not even looking forward to the prospects.
I don't need to imagine, honestly. I don't need to imagine what it's like being burnt out before I started my career, to be honest. I mean, I think your expectations are way too high. And I think that that is the issue with all these junior doctors, is that they do think, oh, it'll just be a life of riches when I go into the medical industry. And they actually don't think about the patients and the vulnerable people that they...
I think you should do a shift as a resident doctor for one day.
I do a shift here.
It's a life of riches.
I could do that.
Because trust me, no amount of money can replace sleep and all the sacrifices that resident doctors have to put up with, all the horrors they have to see, all the ways that the system traumatizes them. It's not worth it to think that, oh, we're going to get lots of money. And with the same exact qualifications, you can go anywhere else. So for you to say that, oh, they're expecting too much, well, actually, if you can take your skill sets, your intellect to anywhere else in the world, why wouldn't you?
Well, why aren't they then? I mean, but also they've received a 22%. Well, they've received a 22% pay rise. So what I do not understand what the issue is, and I also think
that is still not the same levels as what doctors were getting paid in 2008. And that is the point here, that we just want to get paid the same as they were in 2008.
But would the current striking doctors have been even working in 2008 if they're sort of in the early stages are? So they've not actually experienced it. So they've. I think this is a big problem, when it especially comes to sort of the public sector, is that there is a tendency for some of these unions to be incredibly sort of ideologically driven, if it were, and sort of actually you end up with a lot of people being cajoled into going along with these strikes because of fear and because they're being told that things are awful, things are perilous, things are needing to be changed. And I think the way that sort of, especially in the medical profession, as we've seen with the endless succession of strikes that we've now had to experience and endure, actually a lot of people are doing this from an ideological point of view. And I think you see some of the individuals stood outside hotels, sort of middle class people called like Jocasta, saying, oh, I'm doing this for X, Y and Z reason. I think a lot of it is just because the way that the unions work and the way that sort of they are organised, it makes it a tempting, tantalising thing to do and to cause a bit of aggro for an ideological reason.
It's a really good point. Do you have anything to say to that, Doctor?
I think it's one of the things that I feel for patients, because I'm a GP and I have more
I roll my
days
eyes slightly at that.
I completely feel, I mean, we're here trying to solve the same problem. We're all trying to uphold the NHS.
What's an acceptable resolution for you, just to close? What in your perfect world, is it coming to work?
Full pay restoration. And
what does that look like? Does that look like 50%, 60%, 70%?
Well, the information's out there in terms of the exact figure that we've been harking on about. We want to be paid the same as we were in 2008. And also the conditions need to change in terms of training spaces, and also not to feel devalued by being replaced by foreign staff or staff that will charge less, and essentially our role being eroded away. So it's a bigger picture than just the pay, I think.
So Streeting isn't budging though. So basically none of the demands are going to be sort of acquiesced to. Therefore the only outcome of this action is that it's the ordinary people in the public, hard pressed, needing appointments, that are going to suffer. So I really don't see what the point of going through with this is, apart from a flex of sort of muscle with no real outcome.
Streeting has already, he's talked about where the budget is being spent, and at the moment there is more and more budget that's being shifted towards the privatization of the NHS, in terms of, the private companies are being paid much more than it would to just keep things in the NHS to deliver the same services under the NHS. So there's a lot of
what do you
where the
say
money is
to
being
Lynn?
spent that should be changed.
What do you say to Lynn in Cheshire, who's just messaged me? She said, Samara, I haven't had a pay rise in 15 years on a 0-hour contract. I am disabled, I have MS, and now I'm 70 and I'm still working to pay for a basic GP care package. What would you say to that?
I'm really sorry. I'm not sure what industry.
Well, sorry isn't really going to help, is it?
All the different. I can't apologise for her employer, first of all, and that's something that she needs to have taken up with her own employer. We're talking about something very different here. We're talking about the conditions of working in the NHS, and when we compare it with other parts of the world, and we're talking about the fact that, you know, we're talking about the working conditions. So it's a multifold and multi-factor thing. I don't know what Lynn does for work. But what it requires to become a doctor, what it requires to become a doctor, to go through all the training, the amount of aptitude that is required as well, is valued in other parts of the world much more than it is here. And unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening.
I don't know. My hours for the... I know you complain about your hours, but my hours for the past 2 years have been 6 a.m. until 11 p.m. And my job is way harder. I'm joking. Genuinely, doctors do a very, very hard job, but I am getting a lot of messages in here. Someone said, this doctor thinks she's better than everyone else. She doesn't realise that part of the pay is that they get gold-plated pensions. And most of us, most work both private and NHS jobs. She is a hypocrite. What would you say to that?
Well, resident doctors can't actually work private because, or even if they would, they wouldn't get much payment at all, by the way, in the private sector, because you need to be a specialist in order to really do anything in private sector at all. But I want to say that we still need to pay our bills right now. And the pensions have also depleted because the overall pay is depleted over time. So actually, it's unfair to, you know, compare all the pensions, golden, etc. And a lot of, I mean, if you think about it, if resident doctors end up leaving the NHS, do they get that pension? No, they don't. At the moment, they're having to do Ubering and other side hustles and side jobs in order to just sustain themselves. And that is actually the truth. A lot of people are doing side jobs at the moment.
They wouldn't be the only profession that's having to do that right now. I mean, we're in a real time of austerity, and it just seems like these entitled doctors who already received a 22% pay rise are asking for more. And it's this. I don't think we used to have these problems with strike action and doctors, but I do think
because
it's this.
We didn't used to have this level of pay erosion.
It's this entitled. No, it's this entitled 9th place medal generation. Me. I got promised an amazing career being an NHS doctor, and now I feel really bad because all my study and all my choices have gone down the drain because I'm not earning 100k a year straight off the bat. I think that's what it's about. Robert, would you have anything to point out in that direction?
Well,
I mean, you're a bit more sensible than me.
Well, nobody's asking for £100.
It seems like you are. It seems like there's no ceiling to these requests.
I just think as a young doctor, you get sort of all the training that you are going to go and make a lot of money potentially in the future off the back of, paid for by the British taxpayer. You're held in very high social esteem when compared to other jobs. I'm afraid I don't believe the Deliveroo story. I think if they're as hard pressed and working as many ungodly hours as you purport, then I really doubt that they've sort of got the time to go and get the calves exercised on a bike as well.
I've always worked side jobs alongside my entire training period, by the way.
So it's not quite as difficult as it was made out to. I mean, if you've got energy to go and sort of cycle,
a lot more sacrifice.
I think we'll agree to disagree. I'm afraid I don't believe you.
Well, what do you want me to prove? That you want to see my hours? Or how much I've been working, or what would it take to?
Well,
prove?
I just
would
think
rather one of you actually come and do a job in a resident doctor's role one day.
Well, we didn't get the taxpayers funded training to do it.
Yeah, I'm poor. There's a burn, Robert. Look, I'm going to leave it there just as it gets very, very hot and heavy. I mean, look. Honestly, I commend you because I too had an Indian father and he wanted me to be a doctor and I said no way. So at least you fulfilled probably your family's dreams because I definitely didn't. Dr. Basha, thank you so much for coming on the show and stating your case. Really appreciate it. Look, there you go. There's an insight into the psyche of the mind of where the taxpayer dollars are going. That's an NHS GP right there, wanting more, wanting more and more. Always.
Unfortunately, I mean, it's become such a thing now, and I think it is the government's own fault in a part for sort of handing out those pay rises at the very start of their government. Everyone now has thought, oh, here we go, this is there for the taking. And unfortunately, actually, once you've done it once, it really is very difficult to keep doing it again.
It's actually Wes's fault, because I knew this would happen when he gave them that 22%.
Once you pay the Dane Geld, you'll never get rid of the Dane, unfortunately.
100%. After the break, we're going to talk to Stephen Barrett about this Afghan national. That story is developing, and we have all the news right here tonight. That and much more after the break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I got really carried away with that NHS GP and sort of fighting her about her salary. I mean, who am I? Like, what's going on? I think I was lucky to have Robert here, who was really fighting the good fight for me. But let's go over to Stephen Barrett, who is a barrister, and this guy knows his stuff when it comes to immigration and migration law. I was talking to you earlier today. I didn't think I'd be talking to you now, so thank the Lord that now we're face to face. I mean, what is going on with this Afghan migrant? The more facts that keep coming out, the more horrified I am, Stephen.
Well, Samara, I had a very nice lunch a couple of years ago with one of our leading international public lawyers, at which we both agreed that the migration system doesn't work. And it just fundamentally doesn't work. All of these international laws, the conventions we've signed up to, these ideas, there's an irony to them, because the people who want to protect them get very, very angry at people like Nigel Farage and claim that he's trying to drag us back to the 1950s. But all of these ideas come from the 1950s. They're literally trying to preserve the past. And the simple fact is, migration just doesn't work like this in the modern age. And an innocent man just trying to walk his dog has died because migration doesn't work in the modern age. And I don't really care about people who want to pretend that it's racist to think that migration doesn't work in the modern age, because it just doesn't work in the modern age. You know, we've wasted so many years with this racism obsession, despite the fact that we're a very diverse people. I mean, I don't even know the ethnicity of the victim, because we're modern Britain, so he could have any ethnicity. You know, but the fact is, he is a victim.
And it's still a suspect that we're talking about here in terms of
it's
the
still a
Afghan.
subject. He's not named, Samara, so we don't need to worry too much about prejudicing any future hearing. It's always easier when they're not named. I prefer it when they're not named. And this will simply wash out in the great number of migrant crimes now, that you can't say, oh, will you be able to identify him because this is a migrant who stabbed someone, because I'm afraid, Samara, far too many migrants are stabbing people. So statistically, it's not going to become possible. And actually, there was a very good judge up in Oxford who dealt robustly with these arguments that people might be prejudiced against migrants. It's not going to be a line to hold. We are importing dangerous young men. Okay, and I mean, I was a man. You know, I was a young man once, and we are statistically dangerous. And it really doesn't matter what ethnos we have. We are just statistically dangerous because that's what we do. I mean, young men do insane things, even just to impress young women. We take ridiculous risks, let alone.
I wouldn't know anything about that. Yeah, no.
And it all escalates and escalates. And taking in the young men of the world. Just because they can manage to scrabble here on a couple of dinghies or across a continent and walk across it is not a sane policy. And this is a victim of the insane policy we have. And it is about time that we wake up and we stop this policy. Don't talk about smashing the gangs, actually do it.
You couldn't be more right, Stephen. Seriously, I can see Robert Bates nodding away there. I mean,
what is there to dislike? No,
yeah,
Stephen, as always,
yeah.
hits the nail on the head. I think he's absolutely right. The asylum system was made, refugee convention, globally it was sort of constructed aftermath of the Second World War, a time when mobility was nowhere near the level it's at, time when instant communication was nowhere near at the level that it's at. We know for a fact that the growing diaspora you get of an illegal migrant population in the UK, the more likely you are to end up with more, because of the communications that we now have in place. Everyone's able to send pictures of the 4-star hotels to their friends and family back home. So I think basically we need to have a point now where the asylum system is antiquated, it's out of control, it needs to be completely frozen, and we need to start looking to actually work with other countries on an international level to reconfigure and to rework out how we do this. I frankly think we should be moving to a point where those that have maybe a justifiable claim to asylum because they're in a country that's not safe, we need to start working to relocate them a lot closer to home. We can't be bringing over every single individual that maybe faces some degree of persecution to the Western world. There just isn't enough space apart from anything else. It just simply doesn't work. So I think that's the first point. And second of all, I think we're always told that Afghanistan is an incredibly unsafe country and that we simply couldn't deport any illegal migrants to that country. Well, I think we should actually be using this individual as the test run for that, and we should be making sure that once he's served a period of his sentence, if of course he is found guilty, and it's all alleged at this point, then he is removed back to Afghanistan, and frankly at this point to hell with the consequences of him if he goes back there.
Yes, exactly. To hell with that. Look, we're going to take a short break. I'm going to keep you, Stephen, and we're going to also stay with Robert. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll be right back with this story after these messages.
Whoever signed off on this needs to be sacked, right?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? You mean that wasn't a mistake?
Yes, obviously it shouldn't have been released. However,
fire them!
Somewhere in administration, from the courts, the paperwork, I can see that he should not have been released.
Yeah, I think that might be the case, Sam.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I am joined with Stephen Barrett, the inimitable barrister, and also Robert Bates, the director at the Centre for Migration Control. I mean, I was just looking at these applications. There are a lot of Afghan nationals that have claimed asylum. I'm trying to just kind of scramble around for the exact numbers, but when I look at that and I think about the point that you made, it does ring true. I mean, these are people that we really need to start assessing if we even want to take applications from these high-risk countries. Is there any way legally that we can circumvent that, or sort of say, would there be a way of putting a block? I mean, I know Trump got a lot of flack for saying we're banning specific countries from coming here, and that's a whole step further. But would there be a way to do it, Stephen?
Yes. And actually, our system's a lot easier than the American system,
right?
Which is why quite a lot of lawyers have sort of had to, obfuscate or cause confusion is probably the polite way to say it. But constitutionally, it's really much easier for us to take direct action because all of these international treaties don't bind us here. They're not law here unless we incorporate them via Parliament. So if you unincorporate them, off they float off like little helium balloons, and we never have to think about them again. They therefore don't bind us, and then there is no real, or provided we probably have to leave something like the ECHR, but provided you do that, you would be able to once again run our country exactly as we want it to be run, and that's a sensible. I mean, it's quite interesting looking at this generationally because, of course, I feel old amongst on the show, but it really is us who are going to step up to the plate.
Are you joking?
Well, the generation above us has no idea how to run a country. It's not used to it. It's culturally, just doesn't feel equipped. It seems more worried about saying boo to a goose.
But we used to have proper statesmen, that's for sure, and that era is gone.
Well, we just need to run ourselves. Pakistan, evicted or expelled 1 million people to Afghanistan.
They did. Yes.
That's grown-up governments. Pakistan looks more grown-up than my own country does right now. The UAE and Saudi and Iran expelled loads of Pakistanis back to Pakistan. There is no reason.
Well, so it's controversial there to be expelling people, is it? You don't have the sort of culture war that goes on in the self-hating West.
Well, they don't have what we have, which is a very bloated, very wealthy generation above us, which simply has these shibboleths. It won't engage with it. It just won't engage with. If you even suggest deporting one person, you are a monster automatically, even if that person is a killer, which I just don't understand. I can't. I literally can't engage with it at all. Obviously what's happened in Uxbridge. I'm quite close to London. I'm sure lots of people have family and friends. I've got WhatsApp groups filled with friends. I've got a Sikh mate who just pointed out that he had leafleted that road for a political party.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, but we are at breaking point, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining me. Robert, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. That's Robert Bates at the Centre for Migration Control. Andrew Lowney after the break.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, this weekend I spent basically all weekend reading, which is something I actually don't really do because I only learned how to read a couple of years ago. I joke. I've been reading the Virginia Giuffre book. It's a new memoir that she's posthumously put out, and it is, I mean, it's skin crawling. Some of the details about Prince Andrew, some of the details about Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, all the different people that were embroiled in a grooming gang scandal of its own. It's just with a little bit more diamonds, pads in Palm Beach, and sort of glitz and glam. But at the end of the day, it's still working class girls that were at the center of this whole fury. And it actually, that book paired really nicely with something that I read a couple months ago, which was the Prince Andrew book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, which was beautifully written by Andrew Lowney, who, I mean, this guy did his research. He spoke to thousands of people about accounts of Prince Andrew, and it was sort of a great setup to what we now see, which is Prince Andrew potentially being well, homeless, out on his backside, for lack of a better word, because he has behaved absolutely like an entitled prince. Now, the update to this story is that he's now demanding 2 houses on the taxpayer dime, not 1 but 2. So he lives in this very lavish mansion at the moment. It's 52 rooms, I believe, and he lives there with Fergie. Now he's saying to the king, I'll only come out if you give Fergie a house and me a house. Now, there are plans to have him in Frogmore Cottage, which is where Harry and Meghan used to live and where they did that massive renovation that cost the taxpayer millions of pounds. But right now, they don't really know what to do with him. Well, let's talk to Andrew Lowney, who is the absolute expert on all this and had a great hand in, I don't want to say taking Andrew down, but sort of peeling away the varnish that was on top of him and sort of exposing how craven this man is. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Well, very nice to be with you.
Lovely to have you on. Let's talk about Andrew. I mean, this man has no shame, genuinely. He's actually demanding that the taxpayer fund not 1 but 2 houses for him now. What can you tell us about that?
No, well, he's completely shameless. I mean, both of them are. You know, he knows he's in a strong position. He has an ironclad lease, and he can only go if he's persuaded to go or paid to go. But you're absolutely right. I mean, it's ridiculous. No one wants him on the Windsor estate. No one feels that they are justified in having 2 houses. I mean, Fergie's been squatting with him for years. There's no responsibility for housing her. Her daughters are married to very rich husbands. They have plenty of money. She could easily go there. She's just sold a £3.75 million house. So this is just trying to take the mickey again. And that's what they've done all their lives. They've kind of been able to get away with it. And I hope that the king will be firm with them. William seems to be a bit tougher.
Yeah, he does, actually. I think he had a hand in getting Andrew's emblem removed from the St. George's Hall. Well, that's what I hear.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I think the public opinion is way ahead of the palace at this moment. They want Andrew and Fergie basically to go abroad and into exile, or indeed possibly, and I think this is a likelihood, to actually be investigated and charged and actually perhaps go to prison for some of the things they've done.
Well, yeah, I mean, even when I think about Pizza Express, Andrews claims that that's where he was. Well, on the unfortunate night that Virginia Giuffre claims that he was at Tramp partying the night away with his sweaty underarms and sweaty hands with her. I do think, oh, wait, £11 million is quite a lot of money for a Pizza Express meal to give to someone that you claim that you've never met. Do you think Andrew will ever be held accountable in a court of law for the things that he's done? Because I actually think the Virginia stuff is just the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot more still to come out, and the two elements to this: the sexual crimes, which are Virginia Giuffre, and there are other victims who I think will come forward, and there's the financial scandal, and I think under the financial scandal, particularly when he was a trade envoy, he could be charged under misconduct in public office. So I do hope that the Met and the National Crime Agency and other agencies will actually now finally investigate these two. And I think it would send out a very strong signal that the elites are not protected, that justice can be served and people held accountable. Because I agree with you, Virginia Giuffre's book is very powerful. It really brings home the extent of what was going on and the sense of entitlement and arrogance that they had, that somehow they could just do what they wanted. And these were disposable people that they could just discard. So I do hope that they face justice and the authorities really do go after them. And I think for the sake of the royal family, they have to be seen to be distancing themselves from Andrew. They have to be seen to actually be allowing the law to take its own course. No one is above the law, including members of the royal family.
No, you're right. But apparently, I mean, when you think about the Virginia Giuffre book, one of the most harrowing quotes that I read during the weekend was, Prince Andrew believed it was his birthright to have sex with me. And it's a horrible, horrible quote. But it's also, as I said, harrowing because it shows just how entitled this man really was to these things. I mean, was there a pattern with Andrew towards this? Or was this, do you think this was some sort of one-off rendezvous that he had? Do you think there are other people that could potentially be involved in these scandals that haven't come forward yet?
Oh, yes. I mean, Andrew slept with thousands of women, and some were trafficked and some were voluntary. I mean, there were a lot of society women who were very happy to have a notch on the bedpost with Andrew. But, we've got to remember that Andrew, in effect, ordered her off a catalogue. There was a book with photographs that was passed around, and he picked her and she was brought. And then he made these extraordinarily crass comments about how she was sort of the same age as his daughters. This man is appalling, and I'm glad that he's finally been called out and is having to take some responsibility for the way he's behaved.
I mean, you spoke to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was about 3,000 people, and then 300 ended, well, so 300 ended up giving you...
Yes, 3,000 I approached.
Yes, so you approached 3,000, 300 ended up talking to you. I mean, what were some of the most harrowing things about Andrew that you heard from them, or that people said to you?
Well, I mean, I was shocked pretty much every day. I mean, just the brazenness, the sense that he could get away with this. I mean, he would go on an official visit, for example, to Thailand, paid for by the taxpayer, and he would bring his mistress with him to sit in the car at official functions, and he would go through 40 prostitutes in 4 days.
Oh my God.
But I think the thing that I found very shocking was clearly there were a lot of people enabling him and protecting him, and that included, I'm afraid, the Queen. And, this problem should have been dealt with years ago. The palace have only themselves to blame that it's now kind of arisen. But he was allowed. The ambassadors turned a blind eye, politicians turned a blind eye. He was protected all the way through. People complained to the Queen and nothing was done.
Well, he was Mummy's favourite, wasn't he, Andrew?
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
yes.
he was Mummy's favourite, and I think that's why they turned a blind eye for so much of his weird proclivities.
Yes, well, exactly, and a bit like Margaret Thatcher with Mock Thatcher. I mean,
yes,
these women who you think are going to behave very honourably actually have this blind spot with their sons, and she colluded with him, and there were things being shut down. We have to bear in mind that ABC Television could have run a big profile on Andrew and Giuffre and Epstein years before the scandal broke, and ABC backed off after the palace said that they wouldn't have access to the royals for interviews in future. But in the space of those 3 or 4 years, many girls were abused as a result of that. So they have to take responsibility for the way they behaved, and they're now trying to distance themselves. The Queen has now been blamed by King Charles, but the point is King Charles also knew what was going on and did nothing. And the feeling is that as long as you're not caught, we'll just hope the problem will go away, and when it arises, we'll kind of deal with it and hope the public can be satisfied by some half measure. and the public are not satisfied. I think they really do feel that elites are getting away with some pretty bad behaviour.
Well, do you think that he'll be forced to move out? I mean, this ironclad of his stately home. I mean, this ironclad agreement, I was looking at some of the details, and apparently Beatrice and Eugenie are actually attached to it. So if he does keep it, then they will in effect get it, and that's part of his reason for trying to hold on to it through that ironclad lease that was made during the Blair years, which is also quite an interesting fact in itself. Is there anything that can be done to try and unpick this and get him out there? Because I just don't think optically, I mean, I know a couple of the other hosts, Kevin, who you know very well, sort of is like, well, there's no issue with him living there, whatever. And I do get that. But in my opinion, someone who has done this done horrible, horrible things to many people, but also just been casually abusive to many staff members, etc. That's all allegedly. But, you know, he's just a terrible person. Should he be living in the lap of luxury at taxpayers' expense, effectively?
Well, to be fair, he's not living at taxpayers' expense.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yes, you're right.
He was given a very cushy deal, which wasn't offered elsewhere, but he has...
Trying to dress that up for the audience, but you're right. Yes.
but no, the optics look terrible, and which is the reason why Charles is very keen to get him out. And I mean, I think he will. It's all transactional. He will get him out. The question is, how much will he have to pay, and what will the deal be? But I don't think any of the royal family want either Fergie or Andrew on the royal estate. I mean, pictures of them driving around. They want them abroad and out of the way, in exactly the way that Duke of Windsor was sent abroad. And I think some deal will eventually be done. You're absolutely right. He has a lease till 2078. He's very keen to pass it on to his daughters. But, you know, they are themselves under investigation for some of their charitable and business activities. They're not untainted by the parents. So I think that in the end, you know, they will eventually have to move abroad, probably to somewhere like Switzerland.
I know Fergie was trying to get her residency there. I think it was earlier this year.
Well, I mean, years ago, she was going to move there for tax reasons. So, you know, that would be a good reason to go there. The children were going to go to school there. And I think what the royals want is them out of the way. They are creating huge reputational damage to the royal family. And they're doing, you know, they are undermining the good work the rest of the royal family do. And I think William realizes that. Charles is, I think, coming round to that. It is
a little
hard.
too late, you know. I do think this will be a bit of a stain on the King's legacy, to be honest, his inability to act quickly. I can't believe that it had to get to the point of this book being published by Giuffre, which I believe was really the final straw for the King to say, no more, Andrew. I mean, even up until a couple of weeks ago, he was attending funerals publicly and trying to cozy up to William. Do you think the King's reputation will be tarnished by this?
Yes, I mean, I think, you know, it's you know, in the way it slightly overshadowed the last years of the Queen's reign, it's certainly going to overshadow Charles's reign, which is not going to be long. You know, William will come to the throne quite soon, I believe.
Yeah, and he hates Andrew, that's for sure.
Once this sorted. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the shameless behaviour of the Duke and Duchess of York at the funeral of the Duchess of Kent really, I think, changed public opinion. They could see just what a bunch of grifters and how shameless they were. Giuffre's book, I think, has been a game changer, absolutely. I mean, I think it's wonderful that in some ways, from beyond the grave, she has had her final revenge and really brought home the very sleazy way that he operated, and others. I mean, other names will emerge. I think that the King has taken action partly because he's worried what else may emerge, and there is a lot more to emerge. I mean, this is not the end of the story.
No, you're right. And actually, it's a great pairing to read both you and Virginia's book together, actually. Your book entitled, and then Virginia's book, Nobody's Girl. Because actually, when I was thinking about it, the accounts of Andrew mirror each other. And you can see the one person kind of come together. I know that's a little bit vague, but it's interesting because, you know, you think, oh, maybe Virginia's come up with this confected version of him that she has in her mind, having only basically originally been his sex slave, but you can see that he acted like that towards a lot of other people in his life. So the books really do complement each other, and even Tina Brown's Palace Papers has a very similar portrayal of Andrew. So it has been this sort of gradual character assassination of the man, and now there's no way back. I mean, I was reading that potentially he might move to Abu Dhabi because someone's offering him a palace there. I think he did have a place in the Middle East at one point or another. Correct me if I'm wrong. Luckily, I'm with an expert.
The royal family there have offered him a palace in Abu Dhabi, which is constantly stocked, ready for him to go.
Right.
And he often stays there. He goes to the UAE quite a lot. But I think he wants to be close to his children. But the Middle East would be an obvious place. I mean, clearly the press there is restricted. There would not be the criticism he gets here. He would have some good weather. He could play golf. There'd be a ready supply of young women for him. It would be a pretty attractive life for someone like him. So, I mean, he's got lots of options, and this is why I think that the king needs to be quite tough. But it is extraordinary that we can't get rid of him because of this lease, and he has no shame. He's going to stick in there as long as he can. It's all transactional, and he's going to hang out for the best deal he can get.
You're so right, and you're so right about the Middle East. The Middle East is really one of those places where royalty is treated in a very old school way, no questions asked, no accountability given. I think it's the perfect place for him to go and, go on his escapades and everything. But I also don't like the idea of him just chilling and playing a bit of golf and living a very peaceful lifestyle after hearing all the things that he allegedly did and all the people that he crossed and all the lives that he ruined along the way. It just doesn't make me feel comfortable. I just really don't think that the royal family is doing enough to bring this man to account, and it's actually revealing their true colours. It shows that it's always family first and country second, or at least in this case it absolutely is, and it just leaves a really sour taste in my mouth, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I can understand. I mean, and that's feeling in public opinion. I do think that they will perhaps bite the bullet and they will throw him under the bus.
Right.
They can see that the reputational damage he's done, and I think they will want to distance themselves. And I do hope that the authorities will actually pursue some of these investigations. They will bring charges. And I think if they do so, there's a very good chance that both he and Sarah Ferguson may well go to prison.
Wow, that's a revelation. I mean, but that leads me to my last question. You always give me goosebumps, Andrew, with your revelations. Genuinely, I'm a bit baffled by that, but I think that could be the case. Look, Andrew and Fergie, they kind of know where the bodies are buried. Is this restricting the royal family from saying, okay, I'm done with you, shutting the door, not talking to you ever again, you're out of this family? Do you think, because I'm thinking, okay, if Andrew's out on his own, is there going to be some sort of book deal that someone tries to give him to then go and lay out all the dirty laundry of the family? Something Harry very happily did when he was out on his own and needed to gather his own money. Is that something you could see happening?
Well, I mean, that's the worry. I don't think Andrew will do it. I mean, I think there's a possibility that Fergie will do it, and she won't do it directly. She will do it through some third person, a sort of Andrew Morton or Omid Scobie figure.
Yes.
I think also, I mean, she has a lot of skeletons in her own cupboard that the royal family know about, and they could well start leaking those stories. I think there's also the danger that people won't take anything she writes very seriously. And of course, they're the daughters. And I think the royal family could well say, well, if you do this, we could make life very difficult for your daughters. I mean, we'll take away their titles. We won't have them to sounding at Christmas. If you really want to kind of make sure they're okay, then you will kind of be well behaved. So I think there's pressure on both sides. But the daughters may well be thrown into the royal family anyway. William has talked about just the direct succession having titles, and if Beatrice and Eugenie don't feel that they have any allegiance to the institution itself, then they may be quite happy for the mum to dish the dirt. So these are dangerous moments for the royal family.
Well, she's lucky, isn't she, though, because her daughter's married well. Maybe she can camp out at one of their houses and sort of try and live off one of their husbands. I feel like this is kind of what it's coming to now. I mean, they were effective social mountaineers, so in that way, maybe that's her only saving grace. Andrew, I know you've had a very busy couple of weeks, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. That is Andrew Lowney, the author of entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. I really, really recommend that book. It's one of the best things I've read this entire year, be it this entire sort of last 10 years. It's up there with some of the best books. The Palace Papers, Virginia Giuffre's book. In terms of royal books, you can't get better than Andrew Lowney. That man knows his stuff, and he really, really has been holding power to account. Speaking of holding power to account, 0344 499 1000 is the number. I've got 2 lines open. See if you can get them. Give me a call. Anything you want to talk about at all. I do know there's one big story in town, which is the Afghan migrant, but genuinely, if you just want to talk about the royals, if you want to talk about the NHS, if you want to talk about how much of a weird man David Lammy is, Prince Andrew, go for it. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We'll be taking your calls after these messages.
Whoever signed off on this needs to be sacked, right?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? What do you mean you don't know? You mean that wasn't a mistake?
Yes, obviously it shouldn't have been released. However, somewhere in administration, from the courts, the paperwork, I can see that he should not have been released.
Yeah, I think that might be the case, Sam.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Andy says, if Afghanistan is an unsafe country to send people back to, then why are we accepting people from there? That's a really good point, Andrew. Andrew. I've had so many Andrews I've been dealing with this evening. Yeah, it is an unsafe country. If we think about it, currently it's held by the Taliban. The Taliban it's a terrorist organization. So I don't think we should be accepting applications from Afghanistan. I'll go so far as to say that. I don't think we should be accepting men from Afghanistan specifically. I do agree that maybe some women feel very unsafe there, maybe for the fact that they can only show almost one eye with the current restrictions the Taliban has put down. But, you know, there are some real issues there when we think about someone who's 22 years old and what they've lived through. That's almost got to make you traumatized. What do you think about that? 0344 499 1000. Should we be restricting which countries we take people from? I mean, it's crazy that that's even kind of a question. I know that Trump has been very, very strident about who he wants from which countries, and that has ruffled a lot of feathers. So I don't know if we'll ever go that far in the United Kingdom, but I think something's got to be done. Someone has said, Samara, you're on fire tonight. Well done for letting the Indian doctor know what everyone was thinking and saying. You are fantastic. Oh, thank you. Well, that comes from a no-name person. So do tell me your name next time so I can give you a shout out. Let's talk to Mark in Lincolnshire. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi there, Samara. Right.
Yes, I would ask how you are, but I think I know the answer to that question.
It's just very tiring, all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, what we were talking about last night at the very end of the show, if you remember, Samara, about the UKIP march and the Islamification of Britain. Also, we've had another example of Islamism today. It will only ever continue. I think, you know,
we don't know, just to keep things clear, we don't know what motivated the attack. They have ruled out terrorism. So there is that, but just want to let the audience know they have ruled that out. But I do agree with you. This is someone that we imported into this country. The suspect is. And that's got to raise some questions, Mark.
Yeah, it always will do, won't it? I mean, I think the problem that this country faces, obviously the current government are not going to do anything about this problem. We all know that. It will only ever get worse under Labour. Particularly when they're courting the Muslim vote for some really weird reason, you know, which is really odd. Even when you think about that, that's really strange in itself. Because if the Muslims decided to block vote, which is something they haven't really done up to now, but it seems likely that they will be at the next election. They only really can sway around about 60 seats, effectively. That's out of hundreds of seats. You don't need to court the Muslim vote at all. At the end of the day...
You're talking about Labour, right?
Sorry?
You're talking about Labour in this instance.
Yeah, Labour in this instance. If I can give you my prediction of what's going to happen...
Go on.
I think Labour, obviously... I mean, I think Nigel was saying like a 2027 election. Whenever it happens, the Reform are going to come into power. That's the mood of the country at the moment. What will also happen is within, I would expect, probably around 2 years of Reform coming into power, they're going to collapse in on themselves because Nigel just, I'm sorry, all the Reform voters out there, I'm sorry, but he just doesn't have the cojones to go through with even what he's considering doing, which in itself isn't actually sufficient.
If you disagree with that, do give us a call on 0344 499 1000. Do you think Nigel can take us into the next, basically, stage as a country? Mark, you don't think so? I mean,
no,
look,
it
is crazy to put all this hope into one man, but it does seem like we are at the point where we're having to do that.
We've had you know, a recent example of this with Sarah Pochin and Nigel's response, and this is always going to be the problem with Farage, because any time the left, which he's going to face, when he tries to deport even 100 people, what he's going to find is he's going to hit a brick wall, which is the left-wing establishment, which runs literally through every part of our system. So what will then happen?
No, you make a good point, Mark. I mean, we kind of saw that with Brexit, which was definitely Nigel Farage's brainchild and baby that he got passed. And yeah, you can see how the left wing basically tried to have another vote, tried to call it undemocratic, tried to do everything they could to stop it. You are right. I mean, to Nigel's defense, he has basically pointed out how he would leave the ECHI, give them 6 months notice that he has to give, and then effectively leave. So he has shown that he will do that. But Mark, I agree with you. There will be insane pushback. I saw it myself in Australia when we tried to stop the boats, and genuinely the Prime Minister at the time, who was a right-wing man called Tony Abbott, I mean, that man was genuinely portrayed as the devil.
Yeah. Absolutely, and he will face exactly the same challenge. I do believe, you know, what Abbott was facing back then is going to be nothing like what Farage is going to face. It's going to be ridiculous.
Right. Who do you think it'll come from?
This is why. Well, this is why sorry, Samara.
Where exactly do you think that backlash is going to come from? Because I mean, we talk about Labour and them picking up votes, but I also feel like these crazy sort of the Green Party now headed by Zach Polanski, and you know the Your Party with Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn. You know, this is actually what worries me.
You're going to get, what's going to happen is when you try to do these things, you're probably going to end up with a situation where the civil service will all just walk out. They just won't cooperate whatsoever. You're probably going to have the same thing with perhaps even, you know, border force, that kind of stuff. You will also have the extra issue, as we're now starting to see coming sharply into focus, you're going to have these huge groups of essentially Islamists on the street, as happened over the weekend. They're all going to be coming out, and they're going to be kicking off big time. So Nigel's going to have a huge amount of problems. And this is why I'm saying I genuinely do not believe he has got the stones to actually deal with this. What will happen, to continue my prediction quickly, what will happen is they will collapse in amongst themselves. Infighting will start within Reform quite quickly once all this stuff starts kicking off, and they see that Nigel's not actually doing it. The public, that are all going to be voting for Nigel, they're going to go absolutely crazy about this stuff.
Who do you think could lead the country then into triumph?
Well, I'm a UKIP member, and I will say UKIP because this is exactly what will happen, Samara. They will collapse in amongst themselves. The people will be desperate. They will look for anything, an actual.
UKIP's had a lot of different brand renditions, though. I feel. I mean, they've gone through the motions. They've had their infighting. They've had their issues.
Yeah, absolutely, they have. UKIP has rebranded itself as, you know, the reason why I joined it as a member. You know, it is literally the only Christian right-wing party that is very strong, really, really strong on dealing with this problem, that has a plan to deal with this problem, that goes far beyond anything Reform are talking about. Perfectly legitimate stuff. You know, we're not talking far right here, but we're talking hard line. You know, no prisoners taking and such. And this is the problem. When Nigel faces the problems he has, and the public go crazy, all the issues start happening, all the rest of it. And as I say, when they implode, the people are going to turn to a much stronger right-wing party. And that's the problem with Reform. They're not a right-wing party. If anything, if you want to consider them right-wing, they're centre-right at best. And that is up for debate as well, as far as I'm concerned.
I think we're seeing in both directions. We're seeing extreme left, we're seeing extreme right. And I think nothing good can come of that.
Yeah, well, absolutely, you know. But the reality is, Samara, you know, to put it right on the bottom line for you, what will happen for, you know, I speak to a lot of people, a lot of Reform voters, and obviously they're aware I'm a UKIP member and all the rest of it.
And they still talk to you?
UKIP.
Wow.
Well, one of the biggest
I'm joking.
One of the biggest problems that happens with people, Reform voters, don't want to vote for UKIP, you know, the religious angle of it. And the reality is, when it comes to the crunch and all this stuff starts really kicking off in this country, you're going to essentially end up with one of two choices. You're either going to live in an Islamic country or you're going to live in a Christian country that will allow your freedom to not follow the faith, to go about your life like you could do 30 or 40 years ago. They're the stark choices that are going to be facing people in this country, whether they like it or not. You know, we can go all around the houses on this issue, but eventually this is where the country will go to. And as I say, that's all really going to be at the hands of Farage. Is just not going to be the man that's going to do this stuff. He's not going to go hard enough, fast enough, and have enough of a plan and enough motivation, I think, to go through this. That's
well, look, okay, I might not fully agree with you. I mean, I'm not exactly like a sort of Nigel diehard. One person who does agree with you is Pete Barnes, friend of the show. He's just texted me saying, this guy, Mark, is 100% correct. Not UKIP, but they are more consistent than Farage. So there you go. You've got... Pete is ever present, okay? You've got Tory boy Pete agreeing with you on that, at least. Mark, I do appreciate your analysis. I think you're a totally strident politico, and I appreciate how much thought you put into that. Because you're right. I mean, they've got a lot of pressure on them to be perfect right now, Reform, because everyone is looking at them to just screw up. Or looking for them to screw up. So, yeah, I mean, you make a good point. But do you agree with Mark? 03444991000. Is Nigel not the person to take us into the future? I know there are a few people that would disagree with that. Let's talk to Callum in Newcastle. Callum, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. What did you want to say? I've got a note here about the GP.
Oh, right. So, first of all, can I just say, I've watched you for roughly the last year, and I got to say, you must be the best up-and-comer, like, newsreader in the world. Like, Jeremy, that's not even me trying to, like, being big-headed.
No, go on, keep going. No, I'm joking. Callum, that's very nice of you. I know that the Talk listeners have a very high standard, so I do really appreciate that. Thank you.
No, Jeremy, I generally would put you up there with Mike, Jeremy, and the rest. Like, Jeremy, I do generally feel like you're one of the best.
Oh, thanks.
What I will generally say, though, for me, was with the GP. Like, my mum is a nurse.
Right.
She's not a registered nurse, she's a phlebotomist, so she's like a class as a healthcare assistant, as standard as does. She applied for a job, then didn't get anywhere. She then re-looked for the job she was looking for. A cleaner in her own GP practice was getting paid more than her.
What? Are you serious?
No, that is genuine fact, and that's around 2.5 years ago. So my argument is that when that GP was kicking off about wages, I totally understand, yes, it's not the same as 2008. I do agree on that point, and I totally understand their argument.
Yeah, but come on, you're right. And I always think nurses are the ones who absolutely get trodden down in all this. Yeah. They're the ones who are actually on the front lines of what's going on in the healthcare industry and how shambolic it is. They're the ones who have to pick up the pieces, quite literally, of the incompetence of the doctors. I mean, most nurses might as well be doctors because they do most of the work. I mean, a lot of the doctors just walk around with clipboards ticking boxes.
I'll give you a good example. My mum literally has to sign off on all the GP signatures on prescriptions. Do you know why? Because they get paid £5 per prescription.
Are you serious?
No, that is genuine fact. And, like, she's not here right now, but I wish I could, like, put her on the phone to tell you this. This is genuine fact. GPs get paid £5 per prescription. So the problem is the problem.
We'll need to double check that. We'll need to double check that because
of course. Let's say hypothetically, just to be on the safe side, no suing, no nothing.
Yeah, let's say hypothetically.
But yes, on the scenario of that, like generally there was a squiggly line, and my mum went, "I got no clue who signed this. I don't know if this is Dr. A, Dr. B, or Dr. C."
Right.
Because it was just a squiggly line. But that is a scenario, and that's what bugs me about the nurses and stuff. But don't get us wrong, I do agree with what some parts she was saying and some parts she was wrong.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think she kind of like, she was an entitled woman, I have to say. Do you find your GPs entitled? 03444991000 is the number if you want to call me and talk about that. Because I do find that, I do think it's actually a generation thing. Because I don't remember the older generation striking at all over this stuff. You know, GPs striking.
And like, I was working in, for example, a call centre. This was back in 2017 and I left in 2020.
Yeah.
It's now 2025.
Did you get a pay rise?
No, well, I've left there now, but the pay rise, because I went to reapply, has went up by £500 in the private sector.
Wow.
But nobody in EE complains because you get benefits, whatever. But they've got, what was it, a 29% pay rise?
22%, yeah. That's what Wes Streeting gave it to them when he got into power. And I think that that's just the issue, is that, and this is the issue with the Labour government. I mean, we know that they're in the pockets of the unions, allegedly, but you can see that the unions have made donations to them and vice versa. They do always work together. I can tell you that because even in Australia, there is a very symbiotic relationship between unions and the Labour Party, and it's really stagnated any sort of progress within the country. And I see it happening right here in Britain, and that's the issue. It's actually in everyone's interest for them to be striking. Everyone's interest, apart from you, if you're sick and you need doctors' help, and there's no one there because they've decided 22% pay rise isn't enough for me. Ridiculous.
No, I'll give you a personal example. I got a phone call. I was in work. I got a phone call from the NHS. And don't get us wrong, for my personal circumstances, they have been amazing. I will not say anything wrong about that. However, I've also worked in the private sector of the NHS, where I know where they say these waiting lists are coming down is actually factually incorrect, and I could prove this with evidence. However,
Callum, get the evidence. Call me up tomorrow because I want to see that. And I just also want to say that with the £5 prescription thing, you were partly right. You were on the right track, but that was £5 for COVID instead of £5 per prescription. But that actually enrages me more. What was that about? I mean, that's a lot of doses going around, isn't it? I mean, that's are they going to investigate that in the inquiry that's costing us what, £300,000 a day or some crazy figure like that? I haven't read up on that recently because I'm just sort of over it. I'm just like, why? Another inquiry, another day, another bit of government incompetence, isn't it? Callum, thank you so much for your call. That's Callum there in Newcastle. We'll be taking many more of your calls after this break, or you can WhatsApp voice note me, all on 0344 499 1000. Get your calls in. I'm ready to take them. Let's just have a talk. Let's have a talk about how you're feeling right now in this country we call Britain, on a horrible kind of new dawn where someone who came in here on a lorry and then was granted an asylum is now a suspect in a stabbing spree. What's going on there? All that and much more after these messages.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, after this, at 10 p.m, in just 13 short minutes, my math is terrible, so if that's wrong, not on me. Harry Cole Saves the West. That is a show live from Washington that we put out for you because we're so excited about what's going on in the US. I mean, Trump is doing amazing things, and all we want to do is gather that information and say, hey, Britain could do with a lot of this advice right now. That's what Harry Cole Saves the West is all about. That is 10 to 11 p.m. And then from 11 p.m. until 1 a.m., the small hours, it is Petri Hoskin who will be helming the good ship all the way into the next day. And she'll be going through the papers. She'll be taking your calls, perhaps. And she will be taking you through there. So there you go. You've got Harry Cole and you've got Petri Hoskin to keep you company for the rest of the night. Once I sort of duck off into the dark and just walk the lonely streets with a really, really depressing tune on in my AirPods. Let's talk to Chris in Hereford. Chris, welcome to the show.
Well, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you, Chris?
Not so bad. I just looked. I did listen to you had the nurse on early on about wanting more pay and basically.
Yes, Dr. Boucher.
Yeah, and I said, how much is more? Do they want? They'll ask for like 30%, then it'll be asked to be 40%, then it'll be asked 50%.
100%, Chris. You're so right.
Just I was like 4 or 5 years ago. I was in hospital in my local hospital in intensive care unit because I had heart failure. And
that's horrible, Chris. Sorry to hear that.
Well, yes, yeah, but the nurses were brilliant. The people that looked after you in the hospital and take care, they worked from 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night, and they didn't moan or anything else.
That's what I always hear. The nurses are the unsung heroes of the NHS.
That is it. But the doctors, the junior doctors, walk around the clipboard and poking you about and all that. It's just not on. Basically, the country at the moment is, excuse my language, is broke. Basically,
I think that's the right word, Chris.
We're just, as Jeremy Carr keeps saying, we're basically solely broke, and basically we've just got no money at the moment. So they need to sort of understand that they need to sort of understand everybody's in the same boat. You know what I mean? I've had a pay rise because I work for a retailer, and I have had a pay rise.
As you deserve to. I mean, inflation is absolutely off the scales right now. It's just we're also being taxed to the hilt to pay for the NHS, to pay for these doctors, to get raises, further raises.
Well, I didn't get 22%. No.
I don't know anyone who's received a 22% pay rise in the last year.
But it really just makes me angry that you think everybody's in the same boat, and everybody's scrimping and saving, trying to earn a living and trying to keep going, and these doctors just want more and more, and striking for 5 days. As I said, a lot of people will miss their appointments, and lots of people will miss their scans, their scans and routine appointments. The people.
I know, because that doctor was saying, "Oh, it's fine because it's only going to be the the appointments that are regularly scheduled that are going to be missed out." Sorry, I mean, those are some of the most important appointments, and that's what people pay into the system for all their lives to get. These are actually very, very important, and then it ends up costing us more money down the line when we haven't detected that someone has cancer or another life-threatening condition because they haven't been to that appointment. I mean, she should know that.
My mum went for a routine appointment about 12 years ago because she had a bad chest and she wasn't very well, and basically just for a routine blood test, and she found out she had cancer. And she's no longer with me anymore.
See, I'm sorry about that, Chris.
Well, it was 10 years ago, but as I said, it's those routine appointments are important to everybody.
Yeah, they are.
That's
I mean, it just shows, though, why these doctors are in the profession in the first place. It almost reveals their true colours. It seems like it's just for money. And what I do want to say is bring the matrons back. Bring those matrons back. Because they were the ones who were actually keeping everything under lock at the time. And now that they're not there, it does seem like everything's absolutely gone to hell. Because they also used to, I mean, I know that the matrons even used to be taking control of the budgets within the hospitals. Something that the NHS, I mean, it's had more money than it's ever had in the history of its existence. So it's not like they've got a money issue. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, no, it's not. It's the generally the NHS. The government can chuck millions and millions and millions of pounds into the NHS. It's the management. It's basically the pen pushers and the diversity officers and these diversity managers. Put people on the wards and give the nurses a decent pay so they can do their job.
It's that simple, Chris, and I wish maybe someone like you was in charge, someone with the actual head on their shoulders. Thank you so much. That's Chris in Hereford. Thank you for your call. Wow, I mean, it's really that simple. It's not rocket science, but apparently it is. And these entitled doctors just want more and more and more, and we just keep getting taxed to the hilt. I mean, when will it end? Let's talk to Jamie in Enfield. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Hiya. I was going to talk about one thing, but I really, after listening to the last conversations, want to kind of touch base on that.
Go on.
I mean, I've kind of worked within the NHS as bank staff on and off for years as in the mortuaries.
Right.
I think people need to understand what happened with the NHS. Number one, the NHS is one massive, and I'll say it publicly, I'll stand on a pedestal, I don't care. The NHS is one massive tool for bringing in immigrants that shouldn't be here on Tier 2 visas. And what happens is, and it's nothing wrong because there's lots of people who are immigrants that work very well in the NHS, but a lot of people in the healthcare, carers, social carers, all of that stuff, they come in.
I think the NHS probably does need quite a lot of those people.
Agencies. And the agencies would then get other agencies in the UK to then supply them to the NHS. Now, what happens is the reason the NHS staff are annoyed, and I'll tell you, because I was bank staff, I was agency, I was maybe I don't know, let's just say 100 years behind somebody else I was working with, but I was literally getting triple the money that they was getting and had less of the, let's just say, I don't know, rules and regulations that I had to adhere by that was in the NHS because I was bank staff.
A lot of red tape, that's what I've heard from the doctors.
The agencies. And what people don't realise is also working within the NHS, whether it's the dead, whether it's, with patients or aftercare, whatever it is, it was originally a vocation. And I think people have forgotten that caring for a human being was a vocation. The midwives in Poplar started for free. The London Hospital was a place where people was taxed, doctors were put money together, and the poor was treated for free. You understand? And people have lost that. And the reason they have lost that is because there are other people that are coming that it isn't a vocation to. It's a way to get in. It's a way to bring other things. I promise you, they're not half as qualified, not half as trained. I've seen carers in the homes picking up old people by their arms and just swinging them up without even knowing what lifting procedures are. I've seen so much, it's unbelievable. And they'll literally save up money, I promise you, go to somebody in their town that's not in England, they will get their documents, because their documents are...
Jamie, I'm so sorry, I've got to go. But honestly, this is a really good point you make, because you've been on the inside and you've seen how absolutely mad it is. Jackie in London, I'm so sorry I didn't get to you. Jamie, thank you for your call. Harry Cole saves the West after this.
This Justice Secretary could not deport the only small boat migrant who who tried to be deported. Yes. Having been mistakenly released, Hadush Kabatu came back to prison asking to be deported.